Hello and welcome to the Nash Tackle Off the Hook podcast. This week, we have a truly inspirational story from a truly inspirational man. That man being Justin Carter, a very good friend of mine who I've the fortunate privilege to be able to fish with in the past, but that I haven't seen for far too long. To give you a little bit of background, Justin has an incredible big carp pedigree. He's had loads of success on complexes such as Ringstead, Deepings, as well as loads of foreign big carp adventures. He's going to talk about all that. But he's also going to talk about a life-threatening and life-changing event which occurred whilst he was fishing on the bank at Northley Park, which has led him to be paralysed from the waist down and in need of a wheelchair. Now, the whole process of his recovery and his love for carp fishing, family, and just wanting to get out there, be positive and get back to do whatever he can do in the realms of what he enjoys in his life is a truly, truly awe-inspiring chapter. His mental outlook, his positivity, and the fact that he's managing to be back out on the bank and even catching himself some 40s is something that cannot fail but make you take stock of life, put things into context, and just look at the man and think, what an absolute inspirational gentleman. Without further ado, I'm going to go and get the man himself. Justin Carter, welcome, mate, to the Nash podcast studio. How are you?
I'm all good, my friend. Thank you for the invite, really. As you know, I'm up on the Church Lake at the moment. Having a good time, enjoying it. Fantastic little lake. And nice for you to invite me down, Hass.
Don't be silly, mate. You're an absolute legend. And to be fair, you've started pretty well. What are you, 3 days in, mate?
Yeah, this is we've done 2 nights now. Had the big fully on the first day. Literally, an hour, 2 hours after casting out. Mega fish, absolute mega fish. I'm made up with that, basically, mate. Then had another one yesterday, mid-20 common. Mid-20 common, mid-20 mirror, sorry. And this is actually bite time, so you've pinched me from bite time, Hass. So I've sat there all night and all morning, and you've pinched me, but I don't mind. I'll let you off, my friend. I'll let you off.
Good, mate. Good. I'm glad you've let me off. We're obviously going to talk about your life in angling, an incident which occurred, which has very much changed your life. But I wanted to start at the start.
Yeah.
Pretty much where I met you first off, which is the Ringstead complex, mate.
Okay.
So you're a die-hard carper. I met you on there. Talk to me about your time on there, because you caught some fish, boy, didn't you?
I did. I think I met you before then, if I remember right, in Naseby with Blondie. Oh, yeah. I've seen you up there then a couple of times we went on to Crackers together on the Ringstead complex. But, Ringstead, I'm still a member there now. Like I said to you earlier, it's probably going to be my last year, unfortunately. A very busy water, it's got some cracking fishing, it's got a good head of 50s, there's about 14 40s in there in the main lake. So, it's a very popular lake, and it's quite busy this year. I've not been able to get on it at all this year, really. Obviously, like I said to you before, I do rely on being able to fish with friends. I can't just do it on my own no more because of my accident. So, unfortunately, if the pegs aren't available next to each other, I can't really ask someone I don't know to sort of say, look, 2 o'clock in the morning, do you mind getting up and helping me land a fish or something? So it's been hard. I'm hoping to get back on when it quiets down after spawning, probably July time, which was about when I got on last year. It holds some good memories, Crackers and Ringstead, not just the people I met there, the fish I've had out as well.
Talk to me about your angling on there. Let's start with Crackers, mate.
So Crackers, you know, it's where I met you. It's a fantastic looking lake. It's probably, I'll be honest with you, it's probably up there as probably my favourite lake I've ever fished. It's a stunning lake, lovely willow trees, mature lake. As you know, it's next Kevin Maddox Water, now owned by Nigel Roberts and the family. And he's done a great job. The landscape in there is fantastic. It's got everything I want from my fishing, should I say. I mean, I work for myself. I work a lot of hours. So to get down there, I know some people don't like the electricity, the microwaves, the sheds, etc. For me, it was an excuse to get down there, after work, microwave meals if that's what I make, and get away next day and get back to work if that makes, you know what I mean? So it had everything I wanted. I mean, electricity, okay, it wasn't end of the world, bee's knees if the electricity was there or not with the power packs we have these days, but certainly made life a lot more easier. That makes sense. But no, Crackers, I love Crackers. I can remember the first day I went down there. It was... I remember walking around it, and this magpie kept flying around in front of me. I'm thinking, oh my God, you know, I'm quite superstitious with magpies. So as you can imagine, you know, this thing's following me around everywhere. And anyway, yeah, the first swim I chose, I went back to the car, get my kit, came back, and the bailiff had jumped in there. You probably remember Bob the bailiff, so yeah, little character he is. But yeah, he jumped in there for some reason. So, you know, first day I wasn't going to be funny about it. So I said, oh, no problems at all. And I headed over to the bang opposite him. Finished with 3 fish that session. I can't remember what I had now. I think it was a 30 and a couple of 20s. But yeah, I just fell in love with it from day one. And it's a water that a couple of friends had been fishing prior to me going on. They'd done quite a heavy baiting campaign, so in fear I jumped on that bait and carried on with that baiting campaign, and it got to the point really where we could cast the rod wherever and we'll catch it. I remember the owner's son come up to me one day saying, "How do you do it, Justin? You just chuck a rod out and you catch," you know. And it was just mega. It was mega, you know. But I decided to, a lot of people do 1 year on crackers. It's like a feeder water for the main Ringstead, and a lot of people just get onto the crackers, they'll fish it, and then the main thing is they want the main water, the crackers water, the Ringstead water. So for me, I did a year on crackers, did very well the first season, but I hadn't had them all. And to me, crackers has got some fantastic fishing. You know yourself, it's got a great head of 40s in there. Probably at a certain time of year has the biggest fish with bullet in there at sort of mid 50. But yeah, I mean, I stayed on for second season. I pretty much had every single fish out, bar bullets, unfortunately. I think I lost bullets at the net one day. I've got a photograph of me actually playing it, and then it took one roll after that, and then unfortunately the hook pulled. But but no, crackers was an amazing time. You know, I met some fantastic friends on there, some real great guys. And then it was time to move over to the Ringstead complex, really, and that was a new challenge for me, you know, and you know, you get on there, you're excited, you start fishing it in January, you wonder why you're the only person down there, and I think pretty much everyone knows, you know, I certainly know now that it doesn't tend to fish in the winter, although I'll go on to a different session on winter water down there. But yeah, Ringstead was water that I was keen to get onto. You get onto January, and it's obviously the fish are just shut up shop, basically, a cold winter, the shut up shop. It was about probably about mid-May, I think, when I first had my first fish out, and that was a 40. Followed 10 minutes later by another 40. So, you know, all of a sudden they came along like buses. And I remember that session like yesterday. And then, just went on to really enjoy my time on Ringstead. You know, spent a few years on there. I pretty much had most of the fish out now. There's a few I've still not had that, you know, I'd like to have. But like I say, since the accident now, you know, fishing's not as easy as what it used to be, if that makes sense. Yeah. And, you know, as much as Ringstead is, you know, it's a water I can get to, I can park behind the swim. I've got friends on there who will help me. You know, some of your friends have moved on now, so you know you're getting less and less number of people on there. I mean, one of my best friends, Brendan, is on there. Brendan has helped me last year quite a lot. You know, he's massive help. I can't thank him enough for what he's done. You know, he's busy this year with work, so the time he gets away from work now on a Friday night, you know, I can't get down then to potentially on the Saturday. So the weather as well. I mean, you know, I say I can't get down. The weather's a big thing for me as well now. I mean, obviously with my injury, I can't actually physically regulate my body temperature, so I don't know if I'm cold or hot. So you know, sitting out in this, well, we've had a cold spring this year, as you know. It's been quite a cold spring, so you know things have taken its time. So for me, I've been looking out the window, wanting to get fishing, and realistically, back of my nose, you're not ready for it because it's not warm enough. Yeah. And secondly, you know, you've got to remember as well, a wheelchair in mud isn't the best time as well. You know, once this thing gets caped in mud, you know, you're just constantly wet throughout the session, really. You know, and it's even getting here. You know, we got here Monday morning at Church Lake. The time I got from the car park to the church, you know, the side of my trousers, which were rubbing against the wheels, you know, they're just wet through, muddy, and they're still wet through, muddy now. So it's, unfortunately, you know, I have to look at my fishing differently now as to when I can go and, you know, what time of year. So in theory, I finished last year, October, I did a session overseas, came back from that, didn't really fish then until really this is my first session this year. So I've had a couple of day sessions out, good friend Zach, you know, I've caught February, March. You know, I've enjoyed it. It's given me I suppose the tonic I needed to keep me going for a little bit longer, if that made sense. You know, the fix I needed really to keep me going. But you know, I think deep down, you know, I do like catching big fish. And, you know, sometimes, you know, I go fishing. I went a couple of weeks ago just for a day session, and, you know, you're probably catching fish, you know, 14, 15, 16 pounds. You know, don't get me wrong. It's action. It's a bend in the rod. It's a fix, like you say. But deep down, it's not really getting my thirst, getting my taste, if that makes sense. You know, I'd want to catch a 30 plus. I want to catch a 40 plus, you know. But
you're angling, well, Ringstead as itself. Yeah. We'll look back at some of the captures, but that complex is both lakes it is big fish fishing,
Yeah.
isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, you can have hits, but realistically, it is big fish fishing.
It's big fish fishing. I mean, like you say, you can have it. I mean, it's a different water now to what it was. I mean, when I went on it, that alarm went off. It could be a 20, 30, 40 or 50. There's a lot more stockies in there now. Nigel's bringing through a lot of new fish now. Obviously, he's got to with the older fish in there, to get ready for the new fish, the new generation of fish. But now you're going to see a lot of stockies sort of up and doubles. Don't get me wrong, they're fantastic looking fish. He's chose the fish fantastically, and there is some real stunning fish in there. And I don't mind going there now and catching a say £18. I had one last season from there, back end of last season, about £22 it was. But it was just like a wood carving. It was a fantastic loving fish, absolute fantastic looking fish. And and these are the fish that are coming through. In another 5 years, these fish are going to be in the 30s, going up to moving up to the 40s, and he's going to have another great bunch of fish coming through, should I say, big fish coming through. But I mean, for me, like I say, for me, certainly the last sort of 10 years, it's just been big fishing, really. The waters of fish, Deepens, Ringstead. I've travelled over to Morocco, to Parco, to various waters, really, where there is big fish. You know what I mean?
Big fish up in the wild.
Yeah, and that's what's really got me, kept me appetite there. And, but again, like everything in life now, life has changed and life has to be different now. I have to look forward to a different life now, if that makes sense. And I mean, we'll come on to the accent in a bit, but, I have to appreciate now that fishing isn't about big fish no more. But at the same time, I still got the appetite to catch big fish. I mean, the big fully I've had on Monday, £37 4 ounce. Absolute stunning fish, absolute buzzing with it. He's made the trip for me already. Okay, don't get me wrong, I'm still hungry for more. Don't get me wrong, I've still got a couple of nights still to go. But yeah, I'm made up with that fish, and that fish now probably this season is treasure for me, if that makes sense. Or hopefully more bigger fish will come along. But yeah, it's Deepens was a water I really loved as well. I really loved Deepens. Deepens was I had black spot out there twice, the big fish out there, the biggest fish.
Before we delve into Deepens, mate.
Yes.
This should come with a warning, this podcast, about your speed and tracking through all these mega captures. Because Juggy, as I affectionately call Justin, because I've known him for a while, he speed demoned in many a way, mate. And yeah, we're not rolling through your Ringstead captures and going straight to Deepens yet, mate.
Okay, we'll slow down.
On Crackers.
Yes.
You said that Crackers... How big is Crackers? It's small.
It's 5 acres.
Yeah,
it's 5 acres. Yeah.
Intimate,
beautiful
lake. In terms of you fishing on there, you said before that you you carried on on a bait that was heavily baited before.
That's it.
And you were successful. Rigs-wise, approach-wise, was it clear spots close in on boilie, or was it a different approach to that, mate?
It was very much looking for the clear spots or the hardest, the harder spots, really. I mean, I'll go into Deepens in a bit, which was a completely different approach. But Ringstead was very much, finding holes in the weed. I mean, the bay swim, which I know I'll always remember you having the fish out there on the maggots that time. That's Bob's fish, as we call it, should I say?
You did my picks, didn't you?
Yes, I did. Yes, I did your picks, mate. That's it. That's right. I remember you calling me around, and I think that memory will stay with me for a long time. But that particular swim that you're in there, I mean, there was a very, very close-in spot in that swim that, it was literally only 3 or 4 wraps out. And that did a large majority of my fish, a large majority of the bigger fish as well. And, most people would go in that swim and whack a rod straight into the middle or, nowhere near it. They wouldn't even think about looking for there. But it was a lovely spot. It was clear. It was hard. Rig-wise, I mean, blimey, I'm going back a bit now to Crackers, aren't we? Nearly 10 years probably going back to Crackers. But maybe stiff hinge back them days. I can't honestly remember what I was on at that point, if I'm honest with you. But yeah, I mean, the bait was a fantastic bait. It worked. The fish loved it. I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, mainline still in there was a very much Crackers bait, if that made sense. But I was using an alternative one at the time. I went back to the cell when I went back onto the main Ringstead. Again, Ringstead's very much mainline water, should I say. So again, it was getting something I was always confident in, and Cell was a bait that I'd use every day, all day long if I had the choice. I mean, if I had to pick one bait, I think it would be the cell. So, I've had a great deal of big fish over the years. But yeah, no, Crackers, as I say, it was a very intimate water, very smallish water in terms of some of the water I've been fishing. I mean, I've been on sort of 40, 50 acre reservoirs. To go down to this sort of water was a bit of a, oh my God, people casting opposite you and, thinking that you're casting into your water light, you know what I mean? And it was a proper wake up call to go from big waters where, you got a lot of water in front of you for yourself to all of a sudden people being round up boxing you in, and that that always became a problem, should I say, that you'd catch, and the next thing you know, there's someone on the left of you, someone right of you, someone opposite you, and that's intimate water for you. That that can't be helped, unfortunately, in the day.
What were your standout? Because you caught pretty much everything, as you said, apart from bullet.
Yeah.
What were your standout captures on crackers?
I mean, there was a fish in there called the Beauty, and the Beauty is absolutely stunning fish. I think it's nearly 40 now. I had it when it was about mid-30. The first season I caught it, there was a young lad there, very excitable lad. Unfortunately, he didn't get a ticket for the big lake because he probably was a bit too excitable, if that made sense. We had a fish capture, he'd be doing rolling down the bank excitement. It's a bit too much, really. And anyway, I had the Beauty on one. It was a May day, actually, a May morning. The fish was starting to come alive. It really switched on. And I got it on, and the lad came up, and I like to net my fish myself. Always have done. That's it's something that people have their own taste and their own preferences how they do things. And I always like to net fish myself. Unbeknown to me, he grabbed the net. The fish it wasn't ready to come in. It was going between the reeds on the right hand side of the swim, the reeds on the left hand side of the swim. And next thing you know, this net just darted straight in the water, and he just tried to get it. And of course, the fish basically spooked. Next thing I remember is seeing my white ballie pop up in the air, the fish swimming off, and I just looked at this guy and I said, "Look, mate, just do me a favour, we just fuck off." Just for French, but the fish are dearly wanted. It now gone. Believe it or not, it was exactly a year later that I actually caught it again.
Same swim,
pretty much the same day, a year later, and thanks this time I netted it myself and got it in. It's I think 34, 35 pound it was. But yeah, it's like everything with new waters. I mean, the sort of feeder waters it attracts all sorts of anglers, all sorts of quality of anglers, if that makes sense. You got the experienced ones, you got the ones who are coming off day ticket waters who have never experienced these sort of waters, and it's bringing a lot of people together on one water that's all got to get on together, as you know yourself, and like any syndicate, you see problems down there. I always try and, I suppose, keep out as much problems as I can. I've always been the sort of person. I go to work, I go fishing my own time, and like to spend time, when I'm fishing on my own. A bit of, I suppose, I wouldn't say loner, but it's my time to come down. I suppose I've worked hard all week. I've gone fishing Friday or Thursday night, Friday, come home Saturday, and then it's family time. Yeah. And I want to be down and relaxed and in family mood, if that makes sense. So yeah, cracker. I had a few ups and downs on there. I won't lie to you. It was like everything with any water. Like I say, they all have their own problems. Syndicates do, but I really enjoyed it on there. Really enjoyed it on there. Like I said, a great bunch of lads, and I still speak to a lot of the lads now from 10 years ago. Really, we've kept in touch, and even like yourself, you still keep in touch. You see people, and it's nice to see them. A few years later. I mean, like I say, I was in hospital. You came to see me. Motti came. You remember Motti? Yeah, he came to see him in hospital. Bless him, and he stayed as good friends. All these years later, should I say? But yeah, no, crackers. I really enjoyed it. It was 2 years on there. I would go back on there because a lot of the fish, I suppose, I had, upper 20s, 30s, and now I'm pushing through, upper 30s, 40s. Practical in terms of wheelchair, I don't think it's really for me now. In terms of swims, isn't really. A lot of them are sloped down. There's only really one bank, which is the Cop swim, and probably Norfolk Reeds that I'll probably be able to get into these days. So yeah, so Ringstead, like I said, I moved across to Ringstead.
Tactically, did you approach it? How did you approach that? Same rigs, same baits?
Well, everybody sort of said to me, when you go on Ringstead, Justin, you're going to rip it apart. Ringstead's easier than crackers. And, you sit there going, okay, right, you get this false sense of security in your head that you're going to go on there and empty the place. But back in your mind, it's like, well, okay, let's just take this one step at a time. Let's just see what happens. So like I say, I started off in January, keen, got my ticket January to December, camped out January, February, March, April, pretty much until until they started coming in May. I got those first 40s. I'm trying to think who it was now. Who someone sent me a message, said, "Well done, mate. You've unlocked the key now. Now get on and catch the rest." And yeah, just from then on,
talk to me about that two fish, because that's significant. Your first fish, and they're both good uns. Talk to me about how that panned out. Was it just, were you baiting an area, or was it you just dropping a swim after seeing something, or how did those two?
No, nothing was really showing massively. It was just I was just fishing more towards the centre of the lake, really. It was a couple of pop-ups. It was early spring. I wasn't fishing mass amount of baits, I must admit at this point. The fish weren't coming out, but all of a sudden, the thing with Ringstead was, it seems to be this particular week now that we're in now, the last 1 week of May, it just seems to switch on. And that's the same with crackers as well. All of a sudden, you'll be down there, then fish just start boshing it everywhere. As like I say, it's a different water now to what it was when I fished it. There's a lot more younger fish in there now, so it's it does fish differently to what it did. But yeah, it was I think all of a sudden it started to come alive and fish started showing. And these particular rod in front of I had two rods really in the same area really. Left hand rod went, bam, got that one. Came in and blown away really. First 40 out there, I was made up with it, and then no word of alive in an hour. The second one was away, and off we went with the next 40. And all of a sudden the Ringstead, the big fish lake that make dreams come true. Here we are with 240s, and you think, well, where's that happen? It doesn't happen every day. That does it? So, but yeah, no, I was really blown away with that, and really from then I went on to do pretty well. I'd say my best time on Ringstead, honestly, was the winter. Probably not our winter coming, the winter after. We had a real mild winter, and I decided to pretty much do a winter campaign on there. So I fished it solidly from January to probably about mid-March, really, before it started to get busy. People started coming back, if that made sense. I'll be honest with you, I had the lakes myself. In that time, I'd probably seen 2 or 3 members. To be fair to them and respect to them, they kept out my way. They knew I was catching from this area. They kept out my way. I concentrated on one swim, a swim called Bean Tree, which is pretty much central of the lake. But what I was doing was I was fishing one rod straight in front. I was fishing one rod 2 swims down, and I was fishing another right hand rod 2 swims up. So if anyone thought I was fishing that swim, they weren't. Simple as that. And all my fish, believe it or not, came from one particular area, which was a 2 swims down to my left. So if anyone ever jumped in Bean Tree, which fair no one did, then this swim to the left was what I could go into another swim and I'd be fishing it straight away. So it was ideal. So yeah, I basically started with 13 foot to 15 pints of maggots every week was going in every week. I was getting to lake, I was filling the bucket full of boiling water, killing them straight away so they weren't wriggling. I was putting a mixture of cell out there and corn out there, and I kept every week on week, all of January, I just kept bait going in. So all of January, didn't have anything in January, then February, bang, it started. And pretty much every weekend I caught. And these are the 18 fish. I'm catching. I caught the lady at Ringstead at 55.8. I caught Lockstock at 48.
I remember that. Yeah.
Some of the fish I caught were the most sought after ones that don't come out very often. And I think I ended up with 9 fish altogether, one every weekend pretty much. And it was between sort of February and mid-March. But it was like, for some people that's their season. 9 fish on there. Some people only have 3 or 4 fish out there a season. But to have 9 fish just in that small window, the confidence it gave me to go in then into spring, which I carried on catching there and catching. So that particular year I think will stick with me forever. I was very lucky. The weather weather was with me. It was very mild. The anglers weren't there. They weren't pinching my swim, so I was guaranteed I had the same spot every single week. I remember one Sunday I went down. It was quite funny actually. I'd fished on the Friday night. It would have been about February time sometime. It was really bizarre weather. It was like a 16 degrees weekend in February. It was really, really weird. And I fished down the Friday. I got there Friday after I sort of finished work, dinner time, got down there, got the rod set up. Bear in mind, it's dark by 4:30, 5. Got the rods out, and then I lost one that night, and I was proper gutted. And I had to leave next day. I had a stag do to go to up in Nottingham, so I had to get away from the lake. So I remember getting home and saying to the wife, the weather was bang on. It was bang on to do with fish, mate. And I remember saying to the wife, I said, I'd rather be fishing than going to stag do, you know what I mean? But anyway, I went to the stag do. It wasn't an overnight. It was just basically up Nottingham, good few beers, feeling a bit rough, etc. But the wife said to me, well, why don't you go back tomorrow? I've got a great wife, she's totally understandable and, fully back behind me in the fishing, should I say. Stag do, went on the Saturday, came back late Saturday night, slept at home Saturday, then got up Sunday and off I went again. And I remember taking my boat out with a load of maggots in and ballies over to that left-hand spot again, the one that's doing all the fish. And Nigel's brother was on one of the swims across the way, and I think he sort of grasped me up to Nigel saying, Justin's fishing, not fishing his swim, which, not being funny, no one's fishing it. So don't get me wrong, if someone had been there, I wouldn't be fishing it, simple as that. I've got the etiquette, I wouldn't be in someone else's swim if someone else was fishing that swim, but simple as that. But like I said, I had it to myself. So anyway, Nigel did come round to me and said, look, Justin, I don't mind you doing it, but if someone's on, then don't do it. Obviously, which totally understand that. But anyway, that night, probably about midnight it was. Left-hand rod was away again, a few bleeps. All they were doing was a few bleeps. The rod was just twitching base, big fish bites. The bottom would pull up tight. You'd look at the rod tip and it was just twitching. It was just twitching, and you knew straight away it was one of the big fish on there. Anyway, got this fish in, and I was blown away, mate. It was my first UK 50. I'd gone back. It was just purely as if it, I just wanted to write the story, if that made sense, And I'm sitting there. I've got the whole complex to myself. No one's there. So here I am with my ultimate PB, and I'm sitting there going, well, what do I do?
Yeah.
So I don't know what made me do it, but I actually rang Nigel at sort of 12:30 in the morning, I think it was, and I said, Nigel, any chance you could come down, mate, do a photo for me? I thought it was one of the other 50s. I didn't think it was the biggest 50 in the lake. And so Nigel, bless him, and I respect him for this. Until the day I die, I suppose, at the day. The decency, didn't bear in mind he's going to be up at 6 o'clock that day to go to work himself. And, he got out of bed at 1 o'clock, half 12, whatever it was, come down the lake, do some photos for me. And, I remember, he then drove off and went back home. And I remember sitting in the shed that night, you reminisce.
Yeah.
You take it all in. And... yeah, it was a dream, mate. It was a dream. I sat in that shed, and I'd now caught the lady of Ringstead, at 55.8, which I doubt I'll ever beat, should I say? I mean, again, going on to Deepens in a bit. I mean, that was one of the reasons I went on to Deepens, was try and beat because of the bigger fish in there. But lady was obviously it done 60 in the past. It was now an old fish. Unfortunately, it passed away last year. But I've seen it. Funny enough, I've seen it before it did pass away. I took photos of it from a friend. He caught it, and then unfortunately passed away about a month later. It was getting old. It was a very old fish, mate. Very, very old fish.
I photographed it before I caught Pex. That was years ago.
Yeah.
And that night it was caught in the causeway.
Yes. Yeah.
And I photographed it, and I remember thinking it was huge.
Yeah,
just
beast.
Absolutely monstrous, mate.
It blew me away when I seen it. I mean, even now, you look back at it, I can just picture myself in that shed that night, and sitting there on my own at sort of 1 a.m, and no one's there. You're on your own. You're taking it all in, and it was an amazing experience, and that will stick with me forever. That particular fish, should I say, that capture of that fish will stay with me forever. But I did that year on there. Then I decided then it was time for me. I had a majority of the fish. There's still fish in there to catch. But I also decided it was time. I've been there a few years now. Time to move on, do something different. So hence, moving on to Deepens now. I'd won a charity, or say I won it. I won in terms of an auction. I bid on this auction, and I won it for a couple of days fishing down there. And basically, I went down there, new lake. When I got down there, no one was fishing it, funny enough, and I had to walk around it. Phil said I had to walk around, choose where you want to go. So I decided on the car park swim. I walked the way around it, decided on the car park swim. Something about it, just a nice atmosphere. Again, very much like Ringstead. You got electricity. You got everything. I think Phil, who owns Deepens, is an ex-Ringstead member from Maddox days. He's one of Maddox's old mates, so he's very much a very similar business model set up, if that makes sense, to what Ringstead was. Big fish, the luxuries, all the facilities there that you need. The otter fencing, which is the most important thing these days of any lakes now that you look at, and obviously security as well. Make sure they've got security really. And anyway, these 2 day sessions went down there. I got set up in this swim, and that night, one of my rods, probably about 11 wraps out against the island. There were some lumps. There were some proper chunks. They were just jumping out, and you're sitting there, and you're like, "Oh my god, this is I'm back. This is what I'm after. This is me. This is my sort of fishing." Anyway, next morning I hooked into. I still believe it was the biggest common in there, 50 plus common. Unfortunately, it's died now. A fish called Clarissa. There's only 3 big commons in there, 2 mid 40 commons, and this 50. And I had it on for 10 minutes, back and forwards in front of me. It came up and seen it, and I knew which one it was, and then the hook pulled. I was devastated, absolutely proper devastated. And but it's fishing, you pull yourself back up, you get yourself on, and I think I landed a 20-pound mirror then the next day for a left. But deep as that hooked me, just that sight of the fish at night, the lumping out, that's what I remember Ringstead. Ringstead in its days when I first started fishing that, there'd be like hippos jumping out, there were big fish jumping out. And then Deepens, all of a sudden, bang, I was back here, and these Deepens, the same sort of thing. So Deepens hooked me. But like any lake, it's trying to get back onto a lake. It's these days it's who you know, what you know, etc. I didn't know anyone on Deepens, to be honest with you. I did ask Phil whether he did winter tickets, which he didn't. So I decided to go on Deepens 2, which is very much like a Crackers. It's a feeder lake into Deepens 1. A lot of people join it, never fish it, hoping they'll get to Deepens 1, but unfortunately they probably never do because they don't actually fish it and don't show the face. But then out of the blue, Phil announced he was doing a winter ticket. So old Muggins here decided to do his first winter on Deepens.
He loves a winter, doesn't he? He loves a winter.
Yeah. I'd fish every weekend of the year. I mean, Leslie Lake was frozen over. That's the only time I'd have to go on holiday with the family for a weekend. You know what I mean? That was the only time I wouldn't fish.
To go on holiday with
you say
family.
you say that, but the wife's caught me saying that many times, and had me for that. But no, unless it was frozen over or something, I'd be out all year. Doesn't matter what. Again, with it being my job stressful, it was always a way of looking forward to getting away at the end of the week, a bit of me time. Because I'm with people all week, my phone's ringing, got staff coming at me. It was just nice to go fishing, switch off from the world, divert my phone back to the office. No one can contact me, and I'm in my own world. I'm in that happy world again. Getting ready for the weekend, really. But yeah, Deepens say that really got me hooked. So when this winter ticket came up, that was it. I was on the water, despite everyone saying you're wasting your time. No fish ever come out in the winter in Deepens. But I got on with it. I kept at it, and unfortunately, I didn't see a fish. I think the first fish came out, I think it was about April time, something like that. So I sat there December and Feb, March, and April. Anyway, so yeah, that was my opportunity. That was it. Now I wasn't on that season.
Okay.
And then out the blue, I seen on the Deepens Syndicate page, members page, that there was one place available. So I messaged Phil straight away. Said, Phil, look, mate, if there's there, I can give you, please, I'm definitely interested. So the ticket was mine. And that was it. I was on Deepens. And the first year, don't get me wrong, it wasn't a brilliant year on Deepens. What I did was I tended to fish Ringstead for sort of April, May, June, up until the spawned. And then I jumped on Deepens in July, August, September, October, really. So it was like any new water. It's a new water. It's a learning curve. It's trying to find really spots and understand the place, etc., etc. So the first year wasn't a brilliant year. I wouldn't say I had anything fantastic out there size-wise. Certainly didn't do as well as what I did with them 2 days. Went on that charity or that auction I won. Anyway, went back for second year. So again, second year was very much Ringstead again. I got on Ringstead for April, May, June. I think I had 12 fish out in Ringstead in that period of time. The spawned Deepens then starts on the 1st July. So from July, August, September, October, to October, sorry. So I did July to October. Bizarrely, I caught every weekend. I couldn't. If someone had told me that at the beginning of the season, I wouldn't have believed them. It was crazy. I changed my tactic. What I was doing now with Deepens was instead of fishing for looking for spots, etc., I was now looking for weed. But weed that I could actually cast lead into and drag it through it. It was thin weed, and the fish were feeding. What I was finding was the fish were voiding the spots, and they're actually feeding in the weed areas. And yeah, it was crazy. So once I'd sussed that out, every single weekend, whether there was stocky fish, on the whether 20s or doubles, that then led to catching the 30s, which then went on to the 40s and went on to the 50s.
What presentation over that weed were you fishing, mate?
So basically, exactly what I'm fishing today here at church. I'm on a multi-rig, basically. So simple knotless knots, multi-rig. I've got a PB products tungsten liner on it to keep the hook down, pin the hook down. And I was fishing basically a single bottom bait with a cell topper on it. So whether it be yellow, pink, or white, it was just basically. But I don't know what it was. There's something about this particular rig that it seemed to catch, and whether it was hooking better. I don't know what it was. I'm not one to sit here and say I know anything about rigs. I'm certainly not. That's not what I'm here for. But it certainly did something that was definitely whether the fish were getting it, not being able to spit it out, I don't know. But basically, I hooked every single fish. Whether a single bleep would land to a fish, I got that fish in. But yeah, it was great. I was using a very simple, straightforward rig. I was fishing close in. I wasn't fishing far out. I wasn't fishing a lot of bait. I was fishing, probably 3 spoms of hemp and a couple, probably about 15 boilies. So I wasn't going stupid. I was fishing very much for a bite. Where you get some people, don't get me wrong, they'll turn up, they'll put 20 kilos out, straight away. But they'll sit on it 3-4 days, and then by the third day they'll be into fish. I remember Mark Holmes turning up one day. I think a guy had sat there. He'd put 20 kilos of bait out on the Friday, Saturday, Sunday. He left on the Monday morning. Mark Holmes turned up on the Monday dinner time. The fish are in that swim. It's fizzing away. It's a jacuzzi. Mark's gone in there and done well for himself. So it's everyone fished it differently. Everyone had their own tactics. But I just, again, Deepens, I loved it. I did love Deepens. And, I think, I'll be honest, I think the most enjoyable part about Deepens was I didn't know anyone. I didn't know anyone on there, so I kept myself to myself. You know, I wasn't wanting to get involved in any politics or, you know, I remember saying to Phil one day, I said, you know what, Phil? I said, I like a syndicate. I said, no one, it's, you know, it's not a bitchy syndicate. He said, trust me, Justin, you look round, you'll see the bitchiness. He said, people won't speak to each other, and I never really noticed it. You know, I was in my little, I'd get there on Thursday afternoon after, you know, I'd finish work Thursday lunchtime. I'd get there Thursday, basically, you know, sort of mid-afternoon. There'd be Mark Holmes there. He'd always leave on the Friday morning. Mark basically, you know, either would give me an indication where the fish were. If not, I'd work with Les Marsh, and, you know, either he'd tell me where the fish were, or I'd tell him where the fish were when he went down on the Monday. So we would sort of work together a little bit on that. But yeah, it worked well where I got there on a Thursday. The lake was very quiet. I could choose the swims I wanted to fish. If I woke up on the Friday morning, the fish were elsewhere, I could move before the weekend brigade, you know, sort of arrived. Yeah. And, you know, and I got to know the lake, you know, well enough in that year to sort of know where the fish would be. And, you know, and I think, like I say, I think the best part about that lake was, A, there was no politics on it, and B, I could take my dog, and I used to love taking my dog. Yeah. You know, and, you know, he'd just sit there with me, and I remember, you know, sometimes in the winter we fished it. You know, he'd be sat at the bottom of the sleeping bag shivering away. I'd wake up in the morning, he'd sit there shivering. I'd unzip it. He'd come and jump in the sleeping bag. I'd zip it back up, and his head would be at the side of me asleep, and, you know, just little memories like that. But yeah, so unfortunately now with the accident and the wheelchair, it's not so much logical now. I can take him. You know, I mean, you know, chasing him around trying to clear up his mess or anything like that. It's not. You know, I can't ask someone else to do that. So yeah, so Deepens was very special. I had 2 years on there really. Managed the biggest fish black spot. I had it at 54.10, which was, I'm trying to think when that would be now. Probably about September time. And then 2 weeks later, fishing exactly the opposite, the swim bang opposite to where I caught it first time from, and then had it again at I think at 52 something. So you know, it was again another 50. Obviously I've landed 350, but I've only classed 250s I've had, if that makes sense. I've always dreamt of, you know, my dream really is to have 350s. I've always sort of said that'd be me done. Then I'll be happy with fishing. You know, don't get me wrong, I don't fish the waters like I used to now to be able to get any more of that.
Could happen by the end of the day, mate.
Oh, it could do, right, mate. It could do, and there's still the odd chance. You know, I still fish odd water every now and then. You know, and we'll no doubt put back on church again next year. You know, if we get the chance to do it again, should I say? But yeah, a lot of my fishing now, it will change. I mean, this year I'm on another water in the Nene Valley in Northampton or Wellingborough. Mainly big head of 30s. It's got a couple of 40s in there. You know, but mainly it's just about going down there, getting that bend in the rod, really just trying to keeping 30s coming out really in the day. But like I said, big fishing has changed. You know, it's not. I can't do it. You know, I mean, even coming to something like church today, you know, I can't lean forward no more to put a bait boat in the water if I want to put a bait boat. I know it's wrong to say bait boats, but to put a bait boat in the water, you know. Yeah, I'm relying on someone else. You know, I've my friend will always have a receiver in his tent. You know, so I've got receiver, he's got receiver. So I get a fish at 2 a.m. I know he's going to be there with me. And you know, I don't want to be. I see fish sometimes. You know, and they're fizzing up sometimes. Where I'd be down, get a rod, try and get on top of it, you know, discreetly. Now I'm thinking, hold on, mate's still asleep. And last thing I want to do is get that rod in, wake him up with my alarm going off in his tent. So, you know, my fishing is completely and utterly different. I can't fish nowhere near efficiency as you used to fish, if that makes sense. I'm still very privileged and very honoured that I can fish. You know, that's the big thing. You know, when you're laying in hospital, you know, after the accident that I had, you know, half of you thinks you're never going to get on the back of the bank again. You know, that's it. It's impossible. How the hell are you going to do it? You know, I do speak to a few people who've had similar accidents to me, you know, online through Facebook or Messenger, whatever. And I was speaking to one young lad. You know, you know, I've got no balance. I can't support my stomach no more, if that makes sense. That's where I'm paralysed. I broke my spine there. It's just silly things like going to the toilet. You know, I have to take a special chair with me now to go to the toilet, if that makes sense, which, you know, it's embarrassing to see when people see you on the bank with it, but I've got no choice. It's the only way I can fish. Where I was speaking to some young lad who's, you know, early 20s, he'd had the same sort of accident. He'd come off a motocross bike and broke his back. And, you know, he was like, yeah, I'm going to go back fishing, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, I'm going to do this. I said, well, what are you going to do when you go to the toilet, mate? You know, you're in the middle of the field. Well, I'll sit on a bucket. I was like, that ain't going to happen, mate. Trust me, you know, because you won't be able to support yourself. So, you know, I try and help people as much as I can as well in fishing. You know, people who've got similar accident, you know, injuries to me, really to give them encouragement that it can be done. You know, and it can be done. You know, as long as you've got the right people around you, the right friends around you that support you.
But as you rightly point out, it's a massive change.
It's a massive change.
Like, preceding this, to give it some context, you've got your own accountancy business.
Yes.
Which is busy.
Yeah, very busy.
You've got a family, a missus and a couple of girls.
Yeah.
you've got your angling. You talked about Ringstead. You talked about Deepings.
Yeah.
You've been, where have you fished? Morocco. You were very sort of, you weren't limited to the UK in terms of your fishing, mate. You were everywhere and on it. You were.
Yeah. I'm unfortunate, I suppose, with a business, you know, I can afford to go. I've got the luxury, I can afford to do these places. Morocco was a fantastic experience. Been out there twice now to, we able to I can never pronounce it, to be honest with you.
Dam, isn't it?
Yeah, I can't pronounce it. It's a strange saying, but it's a fantastic place. It's a great atmosphere out there. There is talk about going back out again. Now, that is something I've got to look at, obviously, very seriously before I make that decision, in terms of not more than anything, the toilet facilities. That's the thing. You know, I mean, when you go out there fishing in these sort of big wild waters, you're given basically a box with a toilet seat on top of it. That's no good for me. So yeah, there's certain things I've got to look at, you know, but yeah, I mean, I was fortunate enough with my business, I could afford, you know, to have the tickets like Ringstead and Deepings in the start, but also to go out to the likes of Morocco, to go out to the likes of Parco, to go out to the likes of Morocco. You know, these are waters that, you know, you dream of, you know, you physically dream of it in the day. And, you know, here I was now going out there, you know, a couple of times, you know, 3-4 times some of the places. You know,
what you really dream of, mate, is my stag do and me dressed up as a woman.
Yes.
That's what you really dream of, mate.
So we'll go back to that. So
no, we won't, mate. We'll gloss right over that.
So I've got a photo of that. So if you want to put that, if you want to put on the podcast, Ash, you're more than welcome to on that side.
I'm not putting that out there. But yeah, a trip to France, a very fond stag do, and you bringing some slightly dicey, fancy dress for me to wear.
Sheep and everything, mate. We had the full Monty, but no, honestly, I mean, France. I still fish France now. I got back out to France last year. This is after the accident. Obviously, I can't use my legs, so I have to use what's known as a hand control now to drive a car. Yeah. So I got a van as well. I've got myself a small van, and I took myself and Zach down to a lake, not too far from Calais. To be fair, it was more of an experience. That was more of a test run for me for Parco.
Okay.
I was going Parco in October, and this trip was booked prior to my accident. So it was always something, you know, even when I was in hospital, there's a guy called Liberty. Liberty owns Westmore Carp Fishery up in Lincoln. Lee's been a massive support to me. You know, in terms of, you know, the minute my accident, I was in Addenbrooke in hospital in Cambridge when I got flew in there from Norway Park where the accident was. Lee was there straight away, so come see me, make sure I was okay. You know, okay, it's not like you. He'd come to Leicester Royal Infirmary, see me in Leicester Royal Infirmary as well. And you know, you probably don't know it. You might have seen it online. He's just built a new lodge at the moment. So he's built a new lake in memory of his mum, Jackie's lake it's called, and he's put a lodge on there which effectively is disabled friendly. So he's put a wet room in there. He's put a bedroom that I could sleep into, another bedroom that a carer or someone I'm fishing with can sleep in, if that makes sense. He's made it all patioed outside. He spent an awful lot of money on it, and you know, it's designed really for wheelchair users as well. So he's not just aimed at normal people with legs and able-bodied people, should I say, but he's also aimed at, you know, disabilities as well, to try and see if there's a new market they can break into. And, you know, again, Lee's been, you know, massive support. So Parco was a trip that he organised, again, prior to my accident. My accident was in March 19, so this trip was probably booked in 18, if I remember right. We had a lake exclusivity on Parco, so you can't just get that, you know, the next year, if that may. You have to wait a couple of years for that privilege. So yeah, even when I was going through that, you know, that hard sort of, you know, I was in hospital for 2 months after falling out the tree, you know, in the accident, etc. You know, Lee would constantly, we're going Parco, come on, you know, get yourself sorted, get ready. And he'd give me that encouragement and everything. And, you know, it was always like, God, blimey, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this or not, you know. And so, you know, as you get yourself back into the real world and, you know, through rehab, etc., things, you know, and you get back out fishing again, start doing day session. I mean, I remember the first day I went back fishing after my accident, and my good God, it was a nightmare. You know, I sort of had this Titan bivvy, one-man Titan bivvy, but bear in mind, I'm now sitting on a wheelchair and everything has to be height. Yeah. So obviously my head's now bent down, you know, I can't get in there. I've got a bed chair that is just too low for, you know, to jump off a wheelchair onto it. So I had breeze blocks underneath that to put it up, and I remember jumping on that bed that night. And
even getting into this studio, mate, when it just makes you appreciate. I didn't think of anything. Do you know what I mean? You don't. I feel so ignorant to it, because like I'm just like, come up to the podcast studio, mate. You just don't compute it at all.
No,
it's a complete change.
Well, I was saying to you earlier about mate Brendan. You know, Brendan came on a day session with me last year to Welham.
Yeah.
So we're at Welham, and all there was I was sitting on my bed chair, but he was in my wheelchair messing around in it, and all there was a slightest incline up on a hill. And he came up it, and the next thing he flipped backwards. And it just shows you, people don't realise how, I'm sitting now in church. The bivvy's been put on a peg that basically is half on a hill and half downhill. So it's not the most easiest of pegs to move around in, if that makes sense. But unfortunately, when we got here, it was raining. It was a case of getting the kit up and getting things sorted out as quick as we can. But it's anything that's uneven ground is a nightmare. And of course, all fishing banks are uneven. Ringstead, there's a couple of swims there that are fantastic. And then the other problem you've got to bear in mind as well is if the reeds are going out, the left-hand side, right-hand side of the swim, the reeds are going out and the fish darts down the side, I can't get a rod down to it to pull it back. Where you guys would be probably jumping in the water or doing whatever. So everything in fishing has changed really. Everything's completely different. You make a life what you put into it. So if you want to go fishing, you can go fishing, but it's nothing like you just said there, get me in the door here. Nothing is easy in terms of go to the toilet, for example, getting in bed at night. I do everything myself. I'll be honest with you. The only thing I need help with realistically is netting the fish and the fish care really and putting the fish back. That's the main things really that I need someone with, and also making sure that I don't fall in myself and drown. You know what I mean? That's my luck. My luck. That's sort of a couple of years. That's that's always that nearly happened prior to my accident in France anyway. With Adi Duramsky, funny enough, and he drowned out there. But it was
it is a massive.
It's hard.
It's an eye opener for me. Just as I said, the short time I spent with you today, mate.
Yeah.
Before we talk about the accident and what's happened for you, carp fishing.
Yeah.
Why carp fishing? What does it mean to you? You've done it, big fish angling, in the enthusiasm, the level you've done it at as well.
Yeah.
Why?
Well, I think like everything, I started off in the Leicestershire when I was about probably about 10 or 11.
Yeah.
Fishing the River Reek for chub. Then joining the local clubs like Broome, angling and, fishing their waters. And it was really there that, that was with my dad. And then my dad's, the pipe fishing with him. So, where a lot of anglers these days, carp anglers come straight into carp fishing. They've not experienced that core side of it. I did all aspects of it. I did the river fishing. I did the reservoirs, the club waters. And I caught all sorts of species, and you learn a lot from float fishing, and watercraft and stuff like that. And then I got into carp fishing. Broome again was where I started carp fishing, and that was again with friends from school. I used to go down with friends from school. Blondie, who we both know.
Steve Cook, big shout out, top angler, funny bloke, mate.
But Steve or Blondie, as we know him, he was 12, I was 14, I think, when we first started fishing together, and we did a lot of fishing in the early days. I'm 48 now, so I'm going back 34 years. We did a lot of angling together in the early days. You're kids, you're messing around, you're having great laughs. There's a lot of stories I could tell you from them days, but I won't do. But they were fantastic. But yeah, we had some great days, and we caught a lot of fish between us. And then of course, life. I went off to college or university. Cookie and Blondie came a full-time angler. And we disappeared over the years. Always sort of bumped into each other. Always obviously Facebook makes life easy. You keep in contact with each other. Respect the guy a lot. He's a great angler, and it's nice to see him catch now. And likewise, he always comments on me. I always comment on him. But yeah, Cookie's probably one of the oldest guys. Blondie's one of the oldest guys I sort of fished with. But that was the carp fishing days. That was when I got up to sort of 16. Went off to uni or college and uni. Probably stopped fishing for a little while, a couple of years. Then I met your women, and of course women come along and life changes again, and you settle down, and eventually you get back into it again, and I did.
Why do you love it, mate?
Why do I love it? Like I said to you, really because of my work. I employ 14 people. I've got, between me and my partner, we've probably got 600-700 clients. The phones never stops ringing, the emails never stop coming in. Even this week now, I've got a week off this week. I'll go back to work on Monday, and there'll be probably 100 plus emails there, straight away that I've got to deal with. Letting know phone calls, letting know the staff that want to see on jobs that they're unsure about. So my everyday normal life is quite a hectic. Anyone who knows me anyway knows I'm a manic. I'm shoot around at 100 miles an hour. The accident in a way has probably done me a massive favour to slow me down anyway. I probably needed that to happen.
Well, it's kept you in one place. It's not slowed you down, though, has it, mate?
Well, it's not slowing me down 100, it's slowed me down a little bit, but it's kept me more in one place, and the wife knows where I am these days, and that's the main thing. But yeah, it's fishing more is relaxation for me.
Yeah,
I sit in that bivvy. I mean, when you came today, you popped up today. I was just sitting there, you're just daydreaming, you're taking it all in. It's been out wild. Instead of being sat in an office, sat at home. I mean, obviously, since my accident, unfortunately, I spend a lot more time, sitting on the bed now, watching TV, relaxing. When I get home from work, 'cause I've been sat in a wheelchair all day, I like to stretch out on the bed for an hour and a half, I'm stretched out and giving the bones and muscles a sort of, a good stretch. Fishing now, it's instead of being sat in that, indoor environment and same thing, different day. It's something to look forward to. It's something to get away.
As well,
it is, and it's seeing friends, and it's and it's seeing people catch, and I'm always happy to see people catch. Always happy to see people catch in the day, and and to be fair, I've been probably 3 or 4 different venues this year, and like I say, a lot of day ticket ones and just day sessions only. This is the first proper night session I've done because the weather's now right. But I've got a lot booked in this year already. I've got Leeds Liberty, Westmoor Farm. He's invited me to one of the first ones to actually fish that when it opens in July, which I can't wait for. So nice. I'm really looking forward to that. I've got other trips booked later in the year. I've got next year. I've got Parco booked again next year from May. Got L'Ateliers booked. Parco booked for April. L'Ateliers booked for May next year. So
back on it.
We're still on it. But again, it's all down to having people who can help you. If someone doesn't come with me, I can't go. And that's the hardest thing now. And I think that's when, unfortunately, fishing will end for me, is the day that, either your friends pack up or they stop going or whatever, then I can't go then, because the wife doesn't want to go. It's not her cup of tea. I mean, when we first met each other on the honeymoon period, she'll be there, down at Wellingborough Lakes every weekend with me, fishing with me, bivvied up with me, and now she won't think of nothing worse to go with me, you know what I mean? So hopefully Lee's Lodge is built. He's going to be a lot more... better surroundings for her, so she can stay in a normal lodge with TV, fire, kitchen, and everything, all the amenities she needs, not sat in a field in a dirty, muddy bivvy, if that makes sense. Fishing is very much, it's a passion. It's a passion of the day. You know that, and I know that. It's been a massive part of my life for the last 30 years. I've got a massive group of friends in fishing, and
long may it continue, mate.
Hey, fingers crossed, buddy. It's like I say, it's down to I'll do it as long as I can do. Simple as that. And but unfortunately, whether we ever get to the point where there is people I can't go with no more. People do move on from syndicates. Brentwood best mates Brenda. I'll probably leave there this year, so I probably won't fish with him not so much now going forward. Unfortunately, whether I'll end up doing more float fishing. Something I can do myself. I can get a float rod out the back of the car myself, and it's not big heavy. I mean, the trouble with carp fishing, yourself, you need a forklift truck. Bed chairs. I mean, going back to the accident. I mean, what have I changed really since kit-wise since my accident? Well, I just mentioned earlier to you about that first session I went after my accident. The bivvy was too small, the bed chair was on breeze blocks. Well, the first thing I did was basically get a better bed chair in terms of longer legs. Yeah. The SS4 Nash SS4 was the best one for me. And it's ideal. It's actually bang on level with the wheelchair, so I just slide across. It's brilliant. I'm not having to. What people don't understand with this injury is these legs, they don't work. There's nothing in there. There's blood flowing through them. I've still got tone in my legs because my muscles do spasm. Legs do spasm every now and then.
Let's talk the incident so that people have got a bit of context with regards to the accident, the specifics of the injury, mate. So let's go from, well, you must remember the date, mate, I'm guessing.
Yeah, so March the 14th, so I'm never going to forget that. He says that. I'm sitting here now thinking, was it March the 19th? But it's sometime around that time anyway. But I think it's the 14th. So basically, I've just come back from Morocco. I've been in Morocco, which would have been the last week of February. Came back very early March. Went back to work. I was on Norvey Park at the time, so I just joined Norvey Park for the winter ticket. Just something different. I always like to fish different lakes and try and get around it, especially in winters, etc. I really enjoyed Norvey. Norvey was a nice water. Again, had it to myself all winter. Now, obviously understand why now because nothing ever gets caught in the winter. But no. Again, it was for me. I like them sort of waters. I'm not one who goes down there and wants loads of people in my swim all the while. If that makes sense. When you've been with people all week, fishing's very much going down there, getting the rods out and just chilling out, and that's what pretty much it was for me. But Norvey I enjoyed. I got a ticket there in I think it was December. Did one session in December, did one session in January, a couple in February before Morocco. So I'd probably fished it 4 or 5 times, say, prior to me going to Morocco. Anyway, came back from Morocco, and the weather in the UK had changed. Big winds, there's big southwesterly coming in, the weather the temperatures are on the way up, so it looked spot on. Now, being an accountant, January is obviously, that's my busiest time of year. So once January's done, so once we get to the 31st January, effectively I pretty much have 2-3 months off, because the new tax year doesn't start until April. And things don't really start kicking in until sort of May time, really. You know what I mean? So I sort of get February, March, which is the worst times for fishing because it's bloody freezing, it's crap. February, March off, and April off. And so I'd come back from Morocco, I'd gone back to work, just caught back up for a couple of days. And I managed to swindle Thursday night, Friday night, and Saturday night at Norway Park. So I was really looking forward to it. The wife, at the time, my youngest daughter was doing swimming galas. So she was swimming every Friday and every Saturday night, which was fantastic for me because there was no point in me going home because they weren't there. So I'd go fishing on a Thursday after work, a Thursday night, Friday night, and a Saturday night if I wanted it. So all of a sudden it was great. Got down there on the Thursday after work, sort of about 4 o'clock time. Bear in mind it's March, it's still dark nights. They're not getting light too soon. The particular swim I'd been concentrating on, should I say, southwesterly corner. Norway Park's like an egg box. It could be 2 foot, 3 foot. You put a deeper out, the deeper doesn't even work. It's that shallow. It's crazy. I've never seen anything like it in my life. So you're looking for these like 5 foot pockets. And bear in mind, there's swans on there. So, you've got to be ever so careful how you fish it, what colour baits you use, etc., etc. So I knew what spots. I'd fished this particular swim a few times. I'd marked it out. I'd put bait in those areas, etc., etc. So when I got down there, for the first ever time, and probably in a way, thankfully, there was someone else there, because if not, chances are I'd have probably died there, if I'm honest with you. Lee Bailey, who, I don't know if you know Lee, not a Leicester lad, he was fishing probably about 4 or 5 swims up further up than me. And I managed to get the swim I wanted to. The wind was pushing in nicely. I got the 3 rods out, bang, bang, bang. Every first cast on every one, it was great. I got the donk I wanted. And sat back, and then Lee come and see me, come and have a chat. Another lad turned up who was on the Callum. He turned up on that evening just for a chat, basically, as well. So
he wasn't fishing, Callum.
He wasn't fishing, no. He just popped down, really. So a bit of social, really, So, they were in a swim up to about 11 o'clock at night. And again, I like to have a bit of a chill out time just before I go to sleep. So it's probably 1 o'clock before I got to bed. So I've said to myself, right, I'm not going to get up early. I'm here 3 days. Let me just have a bit of a line. I'm knackered from work. I've been working all week. I didn't get to bed till 1 o'clock. So I basically just left my alarm how it was. No doubt me, I'd wake up about 7 o'clock anyway. Anyway, probably about 6 o'clock, my right hand rod bleeps a few times. I get a liner on it, which I think may have been a tench. I don't know. I think it may have been a tench. So I'm up. And once I'm awake, I'm awake. And that was it then. The kettle went on, 5 cups of tea later, 26 cigarettes later, I'm sort of feeling a bit normal again. So it got to about 8 o'clock, and I thought, I'm going to go back to bed for a bit. So I got back into my sleeping bag. I put my head on the pillow and I closed my eyes and I thought, I'll just go up the tree first, just see if I can see them. Because they're in front of me. I could hear them at night. They were definitely in front of me, so I knew they were out there.
What sort of range are you looking out at? Are you looking quite far? Are you fishing quite far?
No, blimey, no, mate. No, I'm probably 8 wraps max.
Really?
So I'm fishing. I like to fish close in. I mean, all the fish I've had at church here, they've all been on 4 wraps. That's all they've been. Yeah. I've always been someone who likes to fish close if I can do. There's a lot of myth about people chucking against lakes, casting as far as they can into the distance. Some water's fair enough, but a lot of lakes, I think, the pressured water, certainly, you get a lot of fish more in the margins. They know how to avoid the lines, etc., and the safety, etc. So, no, I wasn't fishing far out. 3 rods, I had 3 rods out. And so I got back into the bed, put my head on the pillow. Then I thought, I've just got the tree, which I've been up this tree every week I've been there. Nothing had changed. There was climbing, what you get in telegraph poles,
Yeah, the like metal steps.
Yeah, that's it. Fair. So there were some of these at the bottom of the tree. So you get up so far, then it's obviously then you're on to branches. Then when I'd been in Morocco the week before, we'd had some big winds in the UK, and I don't know whether that had damaged the tree in any way. I don't know. I'll never know to this day. A bit late now anyway if it did. I got back out of bed. I didn't take my mobile phone with me. Now this tree was probably probably about 40 yards down from a swim. So I didn't take my mobile. I just took all I thought. I tell you what, I thought I'll have a cigarette. I'll go up the tree. I'll have a cigarette. As soon as I took my Polaroids with me, and that's all I had with me. So I walked up the tree, climbed up the tree as normal. Bomb. Got to off the climbing, metal stick poles, whatever they are. Then I got into the branches.
How high are you at this point? How high off the
Probably
ground?
as high as the ceiling, so you're probably talking 12 foot.
Yeah, 10, 12 foot.
Yeah, 10, 12 foot. That's what it wasn't very high up at all. You know, that's the. I mean, I was saying to you earlier. I mean, the problem with this injury is a lot of these injuries happen at short distances. I mean, I know people who fell off step ladders on 3 steps up, 2 steps up. You know, because you don't get time to do anything. You can't adjust. You can't. So you know, I climbed up this tree. I put one foot onto a branch. You know, perhaps I was a bit lapsy-daisy. Perhaps I was a bit too cocky, confident. I don't know, because I've been doing it every week. Anyway, then moved my other foot over to this branch. Probably the worst thing, having 2 feet on one branch. It doesn't help. And the branch just went, bang, snapped on me straight away. And, you haven't got time to... The minute that goes, you're falling backwards. You know, and I literally was falling backwards. I wasn't going straight down. I was falling back. And I remember probably getting halfway down, probably 6 foot from the floor. And I actually remember, to this day, I can still picture it now, or remember it now. I've got no time to do anything. I couldn't correct myself. I couldn't lean forward to try and land on my feet. I mean, I'd rather broke both my legs. At least I'd be walking now. You know what I mean? But yeah, I just, I sort of hit the floor with a foot, and my legs were, at the time I had no idea I'd paralysed myself. No ideas at all. I remember landing on the floor, sort of upright. So my legs are sticking out in front of me. I'm sitting up. And I'm basically, the pain was in my back, which obviously was my broken back, where I'd snapped the spinal cord. I'd also ripped my aorta, which is the main blood vessel.
What?
Broken my rib cage and collapsed my lung. But the thing is, with the pain, the whatever pain is worse in your body will overtake the other pain. So I'll be honest with you, at one point, when I was waiting for someone to come and find me, I was going to have a cigarette, unbeknown my lung had collapsed and everything else, mate.
Classic.
That's all I had, mate, was cigarettes for me. But so I fell out the tree and landed on the floor. I mean, I was back at Northey Park last week, just for a day ticket session there. I go back once a year just for catch up with Elliot, see Mac and fish with Zach. And I said to Elliot about it, and he says, what I don't understand is when I landed on my backside, I mean, you imagine that fall at 10 foot from a tree onto a hard wood floor.
So it was the floor that you were on?
Yeah. Well, I don't know whether I landed on a stone. I don't know what I landed on, but obviously I didn't feel any pain in my backside. But like Elliot said, well, that's because you were paralysed and therefore you couldn't feel it. And it's true. I didn't realise until really 2 years now that you think, oh yeah, you're right. So at this point I'm sitting on the floor. I've sort of sitting up with my back, pushing my back up with my hand, really just trying to really ease the pain, because the more I fell backwards, the more the pain it hurt. And I was like, Lee Bailey was about 5 swims up, and I was like, Lee! Like, again, no idea he's got a collapsed lung, nothing like this. And unfortunately, because the wind was coming away from him down to me, my voice was getting carried away the opposite direction. So, after about sort of 10 minutes of trying, I got to the point, and I was behind reeds where I was camouflaged, so no one could see me from the far bank because I was behind a reed, so I couldn't move. And when you got a broken back, you can't crawl back to your bivvy. You can't do anything. You are sat there in that floor. Now, bear in mind, my mobile phone's only, only up the road, 50 yards up from, in my bivvy, but you just physically cannot move at all. So,
what's going through your head at that moment? Pain, or is there any thought about trying to, I don't know?
Well, I was thinking about getting my fags out. No, I wasn't. No. I'll be honest with you, buddy. I mean, I think I was in shock. I think shock took over a lot of it, should I say. I mean, it was 8 o'clock in the morning. It was 8 o'clock in the morning. Lee couldn't hear me. I mean, I shouted at Lee various times, and I say that the way the wind was blowing down, there was no way he was going to hear me. Unbeknown to me, there was someone sitting not opposite me, but on the opposite bank, a bit further up. He did hear me, but he thought it was coming from the other end of the lake. So at one point, he has actually contacted me. He said, I actually brought my rods in just and walked up to the gate, which was away from me, completely opposite way from me. Because he said if he thought someone needed help somewhere. He said it wasn't until the ambulance came to the gate that he realised then that it was coming in the gate and it was coming around to you. So I mean, at this point I'm sitting there, Lee's not going to come. I know he's not going to come. I knew Lee was packing up at 11 o'clock. So as far as I'm concerned, in my head, I've got 3 hours. I've got to sit tight 3 hours and he'll be there. But again, I say with a shock, I think I was in and out of consciousness. Them 3 hours went pretty quick. But I think the worst part of it all, I'll be honest with you, the worst part of it all is, so I've done these sessions on Northey. I've sat there, and all of a sudden my right-hand rod just went, bing! And I remember sitting there going, fucking hell, you can't write this, can you? You just can't write this, you know what I mean? And honestly, I mean, the fish just kept going. But I thought someone would hear me alarm. You know, when you hear someone's alarm going and going and going and going and going, you think, hold on, what's wrong here? Has he left his has he left his swim or something? But no, you know, no one came. Lee came when Lee did find me. Thankfully, he did get the fish in as well. But
he got the fish.
Yeah, he got the fish. He was weeded up. The North quite weedy, so it was weeded up in the weed.
What was the fish?
It was a common cricket back common, probably shy £20 or something. We think it was. I don't know what it was now.
But that would have technically been your first fish.
Yeah, that would have been the first fish of that winter ticket, if that made sense, and probably the second fish out that year, third fish out that year as well. But yeah, it was heartbreaking, mate. You know, just lay there and nothing you can do whatsoever. And like I said, I'm pretty sure I was in and out of consciousness. I mean, Lee's obviously, Lee's a good lad. I've spoken to him a few times since. He said he walked down to my bivvy with his kit on his barrow when he packed up. He poked his head into me tent and didn't see me there, so he thought he must be looking around somewhere for the fish, whatever. He said, I looked up at your rods then. He said, your right hand rod. No, sorry, your middle rod. Sorry, not your right hand rod. Your middle rod was just literally bent over the top of your right hand rod. And this fish had gone obviously from the middle of the spot right down to where he was fishing, basically, down the bottom of the lake. And then he knew there was something wrong. And I think then he heard me help Lee. And he come running up to me, and the rest, I'll be honest, is a blur. I mean, Lee rang Elliot to get an ambulance, and the ambulance came. Now, the thing with Norway Park is it's probably half a mile track down to me, and it was just literally pothole after pothole after pothole. So the ambulance arrived. First ambulance arrived wasn't a trauma ambulance, so they didn't have the kit on board. Second ambulance arrived. They said there's no way we're going to be able to get you out of these potholes because you're going to be going basically just moving around on the board in the back of the ambulance. Then they decided to get a beach buggy in to try and get me out. He come, and then he couldn't get me out. He said because Norway Park you can't get all the way around it, if that makes sense. You can't walk around it in one big circle. So he couldn't get me out. So I mean at this point now I'm out for the count pretty much. You know, I'm obviously I remember him cutting my clothes off. And apparently a helicopter then came in, an air ambulance came in to take me out. Flew into Addenbrooke's Hospital in Cambridge, which, to be fair, is probably one of the best spinal hospitals you could ask for, if that made sense. And again, one of my lads in the village, a guy called Matt Swan, he was on Monk's Pit at the time. And he actually said, I seen that, I seen you come over in the helicopter. He said, 'cause I went straight over Monk, straight down to Addenbrooke. But Addenbrooke, I got there about sort of 3 o'clock. So bear in mind, it happened at 8 o'clock in the morning. This did. So the time everything got sorted out, I'm pretty sure it was about 3 o'clock. I got to Addenbrooke. Had an MRI scan at 6 o'clock in the evening. At some point during the night, I mean, the trouble is when you're on morphine and everything, you are very much hallucinating, and you don't know what's going on. But someone basically came and told me and said, "Justin, you're never going to walk again." And I was like, basically, I mean. You say that, but it didn't really sort of hit home. If I'm honest with you, I don't know how I can put it really, but yeah, it didn't really hit home. It was more, look, you can't be telling me this at 2 a.m. I need my wife here. Can you get a wife? Can you give my wife a ring or something? Get here. And anyway, they never rang it. No one ever rang my wife. And I had to tell her when she came. But
you had to tell her.
Yeah, I had to tell her. Unfortunately, when she came, I thought they'd sit down with all of us and sort of as a family and say, "Look, this is the situation." Blah blah blah. So it was quite harsh how that bit. But I don't know whether they do it on purpose to get the shock out of the way.
Okay.
As opposed to leaving it. I think the trouble with spinal is, and I see this now with people now. People live in a false hope that they're going to walk one day, if that makes sense. There's someone, I won't mention names, but there's someone now who thinks he's got a chance of walking again. Well, he's paralysed from pretty much his neck down. He's never going to walk again. There's no chance he's going to walk again. As much physio and as much gym work as you want to do to try and get your strength back up. I think it takes you a while to accept it. I think the back of your mind, you're hopeful one day you're going to walk. But then as time goes on, you soon realise that actually, I'm never going to walk. You know what I mean? I have got the slightest, and I mean the very, very slightest movement in my legs. But when I go physio, I go to the place called Matt Hampson Foundation. Matt Hampson was a Leicester Tigers player, rugby player, Premiership rugby player who broke his neck playing for England.
It's in a scrum, wasn't it?
That's the one, you got it, mate. He broke his neck in the scrum, and he set a foundation up. Now, if it wasn't for that foundation, which is in Melton Mowbray, which again is Leicestershire, my nearest anything that would give me any help would be probably Bristol. which is a good trek, from me. You could 2-3 hour trek or 3 hour trek at least. So Matt Ham's Foundation is half hour away from me, and I go there once a week. I get a PT every week, sort of 45 minutes, just do weights, just keep my top off, built up, and then I have an hour of physio. Physio's great. They get me standing back up on my feet. Like I said, I don't walk, but they walk for me.
Yeah.
And it's just trying to get your brain to remember you've still got legs, because obviously your brain does switch off after a while. Now my brain won't even know I've got legs, if that makes sense. But yeah, it's been a massive learning curve. I mean, I was in Addenbrooke's for 2 weeks. Had the operation there.
What is that like when you did it? When you'd fallen and when you couldn't move?
Yeah.
Did you know you'd broken your legs? Broken your back?
No. I had no idea. I mean, when I sat on that floor. I couldn't move my legs wouldn't move at all, but you just don't think I just did not think one bit that I was paralysed myself. You don't think that at all. I'm sitting there, my 2 legs sticking out in front of me, I'm propping myself up on the back, and you just don't realise that you're never going to walk again. 2 minutes early or 2 seconds early, I've been wiggling my legs around, and climbing trees, and I accepted it. I did accept it. I think the problem with this injury is you have to accept it. If you don't accept it, there's only one way, and that's depression and suicide. So, you've got to accept it, get on with your life. And I won't lie to you, it is hard. It's very, very hard. Like I say, my life I used to love my old life. Now life is completely different. I mean, don't get me wrong, I've got to appreciate I've still got a life. My injury is quite low. It's right at my belly button. So, I've still got the top off, all okay. But, the main thing is I can still see my daughters grow up. I think the interesting thing was my wife turned around to my youngest daughter on the anniversary of my accident this year, which was the second year. And she says, go and tell your dad how proud you are of him, how well he's doing.
Yeah.
And she said, well, why, Mum? She says, he's no different to what my dad was like before. He's still the same dad. And, and it's nice that she thinks that even though I've not got legs, I'm still the same dad. I'm still doing stuff with her. I still play with her. And, I'm still the same silly dad that I always was, if that makes sense at the end of the day. But it's, I suppose, in a way I'm fortunate. I'm 46 when it happened. I've married, I've already walked down the aisle with my wife, I've done that. So I've played with the kids, I've played football with the kids, I've done a lot of life already. And, then I see some people like, there was a lad opposite me at Addenbrooke, he was only 21. And, and you think, God, it's so young. Don't get me wrong, he's doing fantastic. He's out fishing still, he's a big shooter, he does a lot of shooting, he's getting on with his life. But he just, it's so young, you know what I mean? And 46, okay, I've still got 30, 40 years of my life that I'm going to not miss out on, but not live to the full potential, if that makes sense. And that's why it's important, friends are there for me to sort of keep living life, if that makes sense, and doing stuff and getting out there and, just get on with it. But, like I said, going back to earlier, talked about kit I've had to change. The SS4 was one of the first things, the bed chair wise, but then also the bivvy wise, I've had to go for this Ridge Monkey massive 2-man. You've seen it yourself. It's like a bloody hotel. But for me in a wheelchair, it's fantastic. It enables me to go toilet in there. It enables me to move around in my wheelchair. So I think there's only 3 things I've changed, which was my bed chair, my bivvy, and instead of having a bivvy table these days, I've now got a proper full-size camping table. So it's so it's the same height as me. But yeah, other than that, life goes on. Still the same fishing method, still the same thing, and still enjoying it. But it has been hard. I won't lie, it has been hard in terms of. Even the rehab, going through rehab. I mean, you came to see me in hospital.
Mate, you in hospital, honestly, I think the last time I'd seen you was probably my stag do. Jolly up. We talked.
Valley Lakes.
And whatever. Had a lovely time in France. Brilliant. I can't, honestly, when I heard about it, was like, oh my life, like that is... Coming to see you at hospital, you were having a Domino's pizzas with the girls.
Yeah.
And there was not 1 ounce of like feeling sorry for yourself or negativity or anything. I came out of there and I was amazed, mate. I went straight back home because I was at my parents' house in Leicester. I went straight back home and went, my God, that guy is
bless you.
Inspirational, mate. And I can only say inspirational, mate. But it was amazing.
But I will lie to you, that is one word I hate. Inspirational.
I know.
Purely to me, inspirational is someone to me who's climbed Kilimanjaro for charity or something, or done a bike ride from Land's End to John O'Groats. Someone like me is someone just trying to get on with life. I have to. It's not inspirational. Unfortunately, it's no choice. You have to. You have to. Don't get me wrong. You're right what you say. I mean, some people will mentally, it has affected me. I never used to suffer any sort of. I was a very happy chappy. Never had any issues, worry, stress, anything like that, or physical. Being in this thing, you do get a lot more. I mean, I was talking to you the other week. Unfortunately, I went to Easter Saturday this year. So I'm only talking 5 weeks ago. I went up to Sherwood Forest and I fell off my electric bike that plugs onto the front of my wheelchair. No ideas I'd fractured my femur, my main leg bone, basically. No ideas I'd done it. I didn't feel anything. I put my hand out as far as I'm concerned, but obviously my body, as the bike tipped over, I'm assuming my bottom half swung down without me realising. 3 or 4 days later, I've woke up in the morning and my leg is black and blue, proper black and blue, and it's actually twice the size of my other leg now. So I've ended up in hospital, red alert. My heart's now 130, it should be 80. They've rushed me straight in, and I've had a steel rod put then into my bone, basically. Bizarrest thing about that is I've just had a major operation where they've just drilled a rod, or drilled a hole right into my bone, put a metal rod into it, and screwed it in. I didn't even have a paracetamol when it came out. I couldn't feel it because it was below my injury line. There's no pain there. So yes, I mean that was one thing. But then unfortunately, for 3 or 4 days after that, I then suffered a stroke. It's 47 I am now, or 48 this year. It just seems one thing after another, and that's what people don't see sometimes. Is when you have these things, it's all right. People saying, "Oh, you'll be all right, mate. You'll be fine. Get on with blah blah blah." But you're the one who's sat at home on your own all the while, and you're thinking stuff and whatever mentally. But yeah, it's, this injury has, I'd say, it has. I'm insane. I'm sane. Don't get me wrong, but psychologically,
it's changed.
It's changed me as a person. I get a lot more down than I ever used to, which is probably natural. But as much as I have bad days, I have good days. I mean, you have bad days, no doubt, and you have good days. So it's no different. Don't get me wrong, but I never used to have them sort of bad days. I was always jolly, and that was me, always the sort of person I was. But yeah, I mean, the stroke was a bit of a wake up call because. I mean, like I said to you, I seem to keep falling over, brushing myself off, getting myself back up again, and then bang, something else comes along and knocks me down again, and it's, these past 2 years, I mean, prior to that, I was away with Adi Duramsky in France. My accident was March 19. The accident was the 14th of March, actually, because it was year 19, wasn't it? So that's why I'm thinking. So yeah, 14th of March 19. So prior to that, in November the previous year, 18, I was over at a lake in France with friend Adi. Again, you know him quite well.
Yeah, legend Adi. I need to catch back up with Adi, mate.
You need to see him, mate. He's a good lad. He's got a young baby on the way now, and so he's settled in a house, bless him. So yeah, he's doing really well for himself. But yeah, I was in France. We decided to drive down overnight. Game work had been busy prior on that Friday. Didn't get a chance to eat any tea on the Friday night. We drove for the night. AD being AD can sleep anywhere he wants, put his head down, he's asleep. I'm sitting there on the ferry thinking, my good God, mate, how do you sleep on this? So I'm outside sort of up and down on the ferry, smoking away like a chimney. And anyway, we get into Calais, whatever time, about 4 o'clock, something like that. We had a 6-hour drive ahead of us. So we took it in turns of driving. Now we're probably about half hour away from the lake, and I was driving there, and next thing I sort of fell asleep at the wheel. So I've sort of woke myself. I've sort of woke back up again, and I've said to Adi, "Look, mate, you better take over. I can't drive this." So anyway, get to the lake. Obviously, adrenaline's now kicked in. We're at the lake, buzzing. We've got a place to ourselves. Lovely lake. We've walked. I've walked the first lot of gear around to my swim. And then as I walked by AD, because we both sat on the same bank, really, which again is fortunate we did. As I walked by AD, I said, "Look, mate, I don't feel well." I said, I just don't feel well at all. And he said, "Well, I'll go and get your kit for you." So AD's he's a bit of a muscle man, isn't he? So, compared to me anyway, anyone's a unit. So, yeah, he's gone around, got my kit for me. So, yeah, basically got everything set up. My rods are on the rod stands on the stage, or stage stands, whatever, on the platform, screwed in, not cast out yet. My bivvy's up, my bed chair's in, all the bags put away. So literally everything's done other than getting the rods out. And that was the last I remember. I sort of collapsed. I don't know whether my sugar levels dropped or what it was, but lack of food from the night before. I don't know what it was, what caused it. But what AD said to me basically was he could see ripples coming from my swim. So as I collapsed, I'd rolled in the lake. And as I rolled in, I hit my head on the wooden platform and basically knocked myself unconscious. So yeah, it's like the last 2 years have been a bit of hell. So yeah, so I knocked myself unconscious. I mean, AD's then seen ripples coming from my swim, thinking, bloody hell, jugging in already. Anyway, next thing he knows, he sees me walking. He says, it's just my head. Basically, my neck, anything from my neck down's underwater. And just my head's above it. I'm walking towards the island. And he's like, Juggy. And of course, I'm not responding, so I've got no idea where I am, which is probably a good job I didn't do with the cold weather. It was November, so you imagine the cold temperature, etc. He can't jump in because he's going to go into shock himself. So he's run around to my swim, picked my rod up, cast a rod at me and got a hook into my coat and dragged me back in, thankfully.
You're joking.
No, mate. It was, again, if it'd been any deeper, whether I'd drowned, I don't know. You know, I haven't got a clue. Or whether if we'd gone on the opposite side to each other.
If he's not seen you, yeah.
That's what I mean, yeah. I mean, if I'd gone on the other side, there's an island in between us.
So at this point, you've not had the accident, have you?
No. This is literally 4 months before the accident, mate. So it's like all of a sudden it just seems to be a one thing after another all of a sudden seemed to happen, if that makes sense. So this has happened. He's got me in. I don't know how he got me in the bank. I mean, I'm assuming I'm unconscious, but I'm sort of listening to him as he lifts me up. I'm sat in a chair. The two owners are walking towards me now with towels. He's rang the owners and they're coming down to give me some towels to keep me warm. I'm like, Ada, who are these two? Who are these two people? He goes, it's the owners, mate. You met them 10 minutes ago. Like, I don't know who they are, mate. Anyway, then I ended up in an ambulance in the car park, and then that's when I basically came back out and came conscious basically again. And the ambulance man had all these, he's doing ECG on my heart, how many things have got up, blah, blah, blah. And then anyway, they let me release me from the ambulance, thankfully. Went straight to bed, didn't fish that day or night. Adi did a good meal for me, get some food inside me, and then spent the week fishing basically. It was normal, but yeah, it was a bit of a nightmare. So yeah, fishing has become a bit of what's supposed to be a nice, relaxing social sport and everything, mate. It's turned into a bit of a nightmare for me. You know, we've obviously nearly drowned in France, then obviously falling out of a tree. So yeah, it's been fun and games, but like I said to you, psychology, in the head, it is hard. I think the hardest part for me is, like I said, I used to fish every single weekend, regardless of whether I was going away with the family or whatever. But to now can't fish every weekend, to now be reliant on other people to take you, if they can take you, you know what I mean? That's the other thing. So,
You played that whole thing down about you just getting on with life and whatever. I remember feeling sorry for you when you'd had that accident and I'd seen you in the hospital. And then as soon as I saw you in the hospital, I was like, you're an idiot. What are you feeling? Sorry, the guy is like more positive than ever, and it's just me being an idiot. And I felt genuinely bad for feeling sorry because you were that positive. Now you gloss over it and you say that it's just you getting on with life.
Also, just like as well, also, it's not just about getting on with life. It's also, I've got a wife and 2 kids. You want to be strong for them. And that's a lot of what you see when I was in the hospital was me trying to be, look, I'm fine, guys, don't worry, I'll get myself back, and you're pushing yourself along to be positive about it all the while. And, at some point, you hit a wall. And that, honestly, I'll say to you, but it was probably 5 weeks ago when I had the stroke, that's when I hit the wall. It's took 2 years probably for it to come out of me, in terms of accepting and realising how bad things are. And I got proper down 5 weeks ago, probably the lowest point I've ever been in my life. And, I'll put my hands up and say that, life, I'd had a stroke, I couldn't work out really what's going on. You can't go fishing, you're stuck in the house. I was basically stuck in hospital for a week. I was in the house for 2 weeks. I lost my licence for a month. And all of a sudden, the weather's coming nice, spring's here now, people are out fishing, you can't go fishing, so mentally that's getting to you. Nothing you can do, you can't go anyway. The wife offered to take me a couple of times, don't get me wrong, dropped me off with some friends. But you're so down, I was saying to you earlier, it makes me laugh on Facebook when you see these people post these posts about, if you've got mental issues or you're feeling down, ring me, don't do anything stupid, blah, blah. No one's going to ring you because when you're down, you're down. You're not going to sit there going, Joe Bloggs just put a post on saying, if you ever feel down, ring me. Trust me, you never, and these people don't understand it. People just see these posts and share it thinking they're good Samaritans. And don't get me wrong, they've got heart of gold, I'm not saying that. But when you're feeling down like it was, everything's negative. Everything's negative. And, I had some good friends around me, some old school friends and one of my best friends, constantly, come on, Joggy, you'll be fine. Come on, pick yourself up, son, blah, blah, blah. And, we're out for a beer soon, mate. And, and you look at your kids, you look at your wife, and you realise, actually, come on, Joggy, you've got everything you need in life. You're still working. I mean, thankfully, like I said to you, I work for myself. I was able to go back to work. Going back to that lad who was opposite in Edinburgh, the 21-year-old lad who was sat opposite Edinburgh, he was a roofer. He's never going to go back to work, is he? You can't do that in a wheelchair. So for me, I was able to get back to work because it was an office desk. It was my own business, so I could adapt the business to suit me, if that made sense. it's the life is there now. I can get out. I can still go fishing. The thing is, I can fish. It's not as if I'm sitting there at home, potentially like, say, Matt Hamston, for argument's sake, who's, he's paralysed from neck down. He's never going out to fish. But again, a bit of a wake-up call was when I had a stroke. When I had that stroke, my left-hand arm shot up in the air, it spasmed, and it ended up on my lap. I couldn't move it. It was paralysed. And I'm sitting there going, hold on, sir. Well, I obviously wasn't thinking at the time because it was all like, my God, what's going on here? It only lasted about a minute. By the time I got the wife in, she said my face had dropped and my voice had gone funny. God. But having that arm sit there on my arm, on my leg, paralysed, you think it's someone in a wheelchair, what the hell do I do? I wouldn't be able to use a wheelchair again. Okay, I could have an electric wheelchair, but I'm never going to use rod and reel again, am I? And reel in. Your life completely changes overnight. And I think that's why the stroke hit me so much is oh my God, okay, I've accepted the fact I'm paralysed from my legs down, but to now lose a quarter of your body, top off potentially as well, or half your top off, if that makes sense. It was a bit of, thankfully the clock cleared through quite quick. And, and I think there's a lot of answers that I don't know, you speak, I got obviously put straight into a stroke clinic with the consultants, and here's your tablets, here's your blood thinners, here's this, here's that. Right, off you go because I've got other appointments to see. And you're like, well, honestly, I don't want people to answer questions, Yeah. And then you speak to them, would it be do? This was 4 days after my operation. Well, would it be do the leg? No, nothing to do with your leg. That'd be DVT. That would go straight to your lung if there's a clot. Then a week later, I'm seeing the fracture clinic consultant, and he's like, "What's up with you? Just you're not very jolly. Last time I was here 2 weeks ago. Full of yourself." And I'm sitting there now, proper down because. I've just gone through a stroke experience, and I said to him about it. He said, well, it could well be complications from the surgery. So you sit there going, one consultant saying one thing, one consultant saying something else. I'm none the wiser. But obviously my job, accountancy, it's a very, very stressful job. I was unfortunately, I was smoking 30 cigarettes a day. It's either going to be my lifestyle that's done this, or it's the operation. So I just don't know.
You're never going to know, though.
They don't know. I don't think I'll ever know. And that's the hard thing for me, really, is accepting what is it, what caused it.
But I think there's so much for you to be said in seeing positivity in that light, because there are people that have got, and I've spoken to them, that have got very similar lives and setups to yourself, and they're not anywhere near into the position you are. The actual crux of the injury, mate. So the injury you suffered, you said there, you went to Aid Brooks in Cambridgeshire for a couple of weeks directly after it. They said to you at 2 a.m. on whatever day that you would never walk again. You had to then relay that to your wife, which I can't even imagine doing. But the crux physiologically of that injury, so you basically severed your spinal cord.
Well, no. Not. Sorry. No. You're right. What you're saying. I didn't sever it. I actually compressed it. So I think when I fell out the tree, I've squashed it, and it's like a cable wire, like this cable here. You squash that, and the wires inside are damaged. So when I compressed it, I've damaged all the nerves inside. So that's what's done the damage to me. So at some points it may well decompress, but the nerves are all damaged inside, so they'll never come back. So yeah, don't get me wrong, there's difference. People do sever the spinal cords, but mine has been what's known as compressed. So it's no different at all. Don't get me wrong, it's still going nowhere. You know what I mean? It's still not making a difference. But like I said, there is something in that spinal cord that is still getting a bit. I say a bit. I mean, blimey, I move my foot an inch, if that. And you look at it and think, well, how much physio potentially do I have to go through now to be able to probably not? I mean, I'm never going to walk again. I accept that. I'm never ever going to walk. Even if they get movement back in my legs, I might become weight bearing, if that makes sense. But I'm never ever going to be able to walk like you, or walk like I used to be able to walk. So I've accepted that. That's life. Life's in a wheelchair. Get on with it. But yeah, the whole process has always been, like I say, the 2 weeks in Annenbrook was one thing. That was, a story in itself, and just the wife having to travel from Leicester down to Cambridge to come see me every day. The kids, obviously seeing the kids' face, they were in bits. I then got transferred then to Leicester Royal Infirmary, where I was there for 9 weeks, and that was purely waiting for a bed to go to rehab. Yeah. They said to me, Justin, no, we're not ignoring you. There's nothing wrong with you. This is, don't get me wrong, I'm recovering from a spinal injury. That's all been dealt with already at Annenbrooks. But all I was there was just wait. I was in a waiting bed. I couldn't go home because obviously my house wasn't adapted. So I couldn't do anything. And if I did go home, as far as I'm concerned, I'm out of the system. The good thing, I suppose, in theory, when I was at Leicester Royal Infirmary was, with a lot of clients, a lot of friends, I had visitors. I mean, some days I'd have 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 people come and visit me. It was got crazy sometimes. But what they did was, which was probably the best thing they could have done, they gave me a day release. So I actually got out every day near enough. So instead of being stuck in the hospital, 24/7, I would go to work off my own back. I would go home off my own back. And when I got to Sheffield, which we say was 9 weeks long, it was a long time waiting.
So Sheffield's your rehab recovery place.
Yeah. Sheffield's a rehab, so you have to go to Sheffield. You have to. So to learn toilet facilities, to learn obviously wheelchair use, to learn just general stuff. But when I got to Sheffield, because I'd spent 9 weeks effectively rehabilitating myself, i.e. I was leaving the hospital, I was getting in and out of cars, I was going to the office and working, I was going home. And when I was at home, I was taking videos, and that's me making a cup of tea. That's me doing this, that's me doing that. So when I got to Sheffield, it was very much like after a week of me being there, they called me in. It was quite, I did enjoy Sheffield. Sheffield was great. It was a great place. Got to the gym, got the weight back on me. Just meeting other people like you, if that made sense. But when you got to Sheffield, it was very much you'd have a meeting at the end of every week with basically a room like this with 9-10 people in it. Every single consultant you deal with was in that room. So you sit there, you go and have this meeting on Monday morning. You sit there probably 5 minutes with them all chatting away. One was the occupational therapist, one was your consultant, one was this, one was that. And basically, after a week of me being there, they turned around and said, "Justin, we don't know what to do with you." I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "Well, you've rehabilitated yourself." And I actually did. I rehabilitated myself. So I think I learned the toilet facilities there. Obviously got in the gym, got my weight back on me. I was only there about sort of 2.5 weeks, where normally you're there for 3 months. I was there for 2, what I'm like anyway, I'm quite positive minded, etc. I got on with it, and after 2.5 weeks, 3 weeks, they let me go, and I was back home. And then that's really when it starts. You're back in the real world. When you're in hospital, you've got people there caring for you, and if anything goes wrong, there's someone there straight away. When you're back in your own home, it is quite scary. In terms of you've now got to get used to this new life. And when obviously returning home after, I think it was 14 weeks altogether, I was away for 13, 14 weeks. The house was a different house. The house I left on that day I went to Norway Park, I'd now returned back to a house now that had been, my downstairs man cave was my office. It was purely, fishing kit in there, my work was in there, everything was in there really. And it was where I could go and get a bit of escape for myself. Was now our bedroom. That had been converted into a bedroom. The house had been adapted, and I couldn't get in the front door. It took me nearly a year to be able to get back in the front door because I'll come on to that in a minute. But, all that had to be adapted because the front door is probably 4 or 5 foot above the pavement level. So I had to go in the back door, which meant me going up 40 foot of gravel on the wheels, having to go up this driveway. You imagine gravel driveway. Of course, if this gravel had all built up, my wheels would just spin round. It was a nightmare. It's going to keep you fit on top. But yeah, I got home. It was, the house was a completely different feel to it. It didn't feel like it took me a while as well to adjust to life. I didn't know what to do at night. I was bored. Where before I was always busy. I'd see clients after work and stuff. I was getting home now, and it's all get 5 o'clock. You'd be like, "Great, what am I going to do now?" You know what I mean? I'd stop smoking. I wasn't doing this. I wasn't doing that. And it took me a while to get back into a routine of life. If that made sense.
Yeah.
Obviously, I had my business. So I'd come out of hospital, Sheffield, in I think it was about June time, late June. Didn't plan to go back to work until August, full time, should I say, or even sort of part time. We went away to Cornwall for a week. In the first week of August, went away to Cornwall for a week, which again was a massive thing. The wife has been a massive impact in terms of driving me in the right direction. I mean, so much stuff I've done that I probably wouldn't have done if it wasn't for her. We've gone to Cornwall. If it was me, I know I've stayed at home. I'm okay. I feel more comfy at being at home. Safe from my bed. We drove down to Cornwall, Newquay in a Mini. A Mini with a wheelchair in the back, suitcase in the back, the kids in the back, and I don't know to this day how we fit everything in. You know what I mean? I mean, I've got an Audi estate, and even now we struggle with that. You know what I mean? But yeah, we got down there, and obviously where we stayed wasn't wheelchair friendly. So we had to adapt to all that, and it was just a nightmare. You're getting used to it all. It was proper. Eye opener, if that made sense. But yeah, I then came back. I went back to work. And I think I said to you, my manager he'd had a nervous breakdown, unfortunately, in January that year. So I ended up going back to work in August and pretty much getting thrown right back in the deep end. To the point I was back doing 7 days a week, stupid hours every day, right through until January, until we got the job done again. And only now we're still looking for manager. 2 years on, we're still looking for a manager. So I've had another year of it last year. And now we've got interviews. When I get back next week into the office, I've got 2 interviews, hopefully, to get that person back into that role. You know what I mean? So, hey, you can give me more of a break back, give me my life back a little bit, if that makes sense. Because
you could have used this, mate, and plugged it, mate. It was a job interview.
No, I could have done it. No, it's just been. you know, it's just been hell. Really, the last 2 years, I'd say, you know, I wouldn't wish it on anybody.
I mean, obviously, I knew about the injury. I saw you pretty instantly after when you were at Leicester. Your mindset was incredible, and it still is.
Yeah.
But the amount of things, as you say, that you don't appreciate or you don't know, and the other complications that you've had subsequently, it's enough to take a few people under, mate, that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a strong person. I'm positive minded, and you know, I keep dusting myself off, picking myself back up, if that makes sense. But it's, you know, I think what frustrates me, I think sometimes is people see me sat at my desk, you know, Monday morning. I'll get in the office about 9:15, something like that, and they don't see what it's took you to get to that point. You know, to get out of bed, to go to the toilet, to get yourself ready, to get into the car, to drive to work. You know, don't get me wrong, it's no different to you, but my day now is a lot harder. It takes a lot longer to do stuff, if that makes sense. I mean, I can see why some, you know, people in wheelchairs don't work. Those that live on their own, you know, they've got, you know, to be able to, I mean, I'm thankful I've got a wife who does a lot of stuff, you know, she'll clean the house, she cooks for me, she washes for me. But people who live on their own don't have that, you know, that luxury, I suppose. And you can see why they don't work, because they spend all the time, you know, everything's hard. Everything is so hard. Nothing's easy, you know, whether it's getting into a doorway. I mean, you know, we're trying to get in here today. You know, that corridor outside this door is so narrow that we've had to come around the back way instead, you know, and it's, you know, it's just silly things like that, you know.
Honestly, I apologise.
No.
But like, this, you don't even compute it.
But people don't, mate. That's the thing, you see. People look at me, you know, you know, I'm just a normal, as Justin is back at his desk, blah, 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 working. And I know, I'll be honest with you, I've had a couple of clients the last couple of years where I've actually turned around to them and said, look, mate, get your stuff and just fuck off, because your attitude stinks. You know, I mean, there's one bloke who he kept cancelling appointments on me all the while, you know, and you know, I'm busy. I've got a lot of work on. I can't afford to keep cancelling appointments all the while. And no, Justin, I'm sorry. Look, I'm going to have to cancel again. Can't make it. Got an appointment. Need to rebook. That's all you get. Real straight to the point. And it got to the point where he came to the office and his attitude stunk. I said, your emails a bit off, mate, aren't they? I said, you know, at least if that was me, I'd be at least saying to you, mate, look, I'm ever so sorry to mess you around, buddy, but, you know, can I rearrange? Justin, I'm the customer. You do whatever I say. And I said, if that's the case, mate, get your fucking stuff and piss off, basically. And he did. You know, he went and then he's sitting there talking to my business partner going, I don't want to upset him. But you look at life differently. You know, some people you look at now and you shake your head and you think, you just don't know. You're born. You know what I mean? You spoil, you know, you treat people like crap, if that makes sense. Yeah, you put yourself in my shoes, you'd soon look at people differently, if that makes sense. Not massively differently, don't get me wrong. You know, but you do look at people differently, and when you get people's attitudes like that, you think, you know what, I don't need negative people like that around me. You know, I want positive people around me now to keep positive and get on with life, etc., etc. But yeah, mate, I'll be honest with you, mate. You know, work's been fantastic. You know, everyone helps out there. You know, they come. You know, I'm spoilt in a way. You know, I'm supposed to get to work, get myself out of the car every day. The lads come out, they get the wheelchair out the boot for me, they set it up for me, I jump in my car in the office, at night I come back out, they put the wheelchair back in for me, and really I should be doing that myself, you know what I mean? And when I do it myself now, it's bloody hard, you know what I mean? Because I'm not used to it, you know what I mean? It's like, you know, you see people doing it every minute normally. But yeah, work's been fantastic, you know, like I say, fishing guys, you know, I've got some fantastic friends. I mean, I say I've been away with AD, Dramsky, I've been away with Brendan, you know, Zach's been fantastic, Liberty, you know, I won't go through them all, but, you know, some have been fantastic. But like I say, going back to my access to my front door, Chris Berry of Wellingborough Lakes, you know, he did a charity for me pretty much probably a couple of months after I came out of hospital, and he basically closed his lakes down. He offered it to his members to basically go into this, to enter into this match, if that made sense. And also another lake called Delapre, which is owned by Jamie Cooper, which down the road, he then shut it and did the same thing as well. So I had one weekend where they did a big charity match for me, a massive raffle. You know, there's so many kind-hearted people in the industry gave prizes. You know, people like, you know, Jim Shelley, who was there the other day. You know, he gave books for it, which I've, you know, been in touch with him, thank him for it. You know, Nash, Ridge, they all did. You know, PB, they all contributed towards it, and it was nice to see that. You know what I mean? That the industry sort of came together, helped me out there.
Community's good for that, isn't it?
It's fantastic, buddy. It is fantastic. You know, and they raised nearly £10,000. You know, and that bought the lift I needed then to get in the front door, which now makes life so much easier for me. You know, and Chris is a personal friend. I've known Chris for years anyway, and you know, he you know, I'll be out with him a couple of times. I've got a couple of trips booked with him this year, which I'm looking forward to. So yeah, there's some people have been amazing, and others, you know, they just sort of look at you as if you're no different to anyone else. It's normal Justin, if that makes sense. But life is harder. Life is a lot harder. And, I won't wish this on anybody. Nobody, when you start that journey, when I was in Edinburgh and that journey is about to start, 14 weeks going through hospitals into rehab, I won't wish that journey on anybody. No one can sort of tell you what you're about to experience. Such a massive change in your life and stuff like that. But,
what got you through that, mate?
My girls and my wife. And
family.
That's truth. Like I said to you, I was positive when you came to see my hospital. It's all positive because you're doing it really for the family. You've got to be strong. You're the husband, you're the dad, you're the husband. And you want to be strong for them in the day. You don't want to see you breaking down. The wife. She obviously went away. I think the hardest part of it all was that obviously your wife would come and see you, then she would go home back to Leicester. I was in Edinburgh or wherever, but you don't know how she was reacting. You don't know if she was going home and breaking down and stuff like that. So, you wanted to keep positive, keep strong and get on with your life, really, more for your family. So you try and keep everything together. I mean, to lose your family now would be, for me, it'd be heartbreaking. Not because it's making life easier, but, they've been through this with me. They're a massive part of my life. And I love them dearly, all of them. I couldn't ask for a better family. What I mean? If I'm honest with the truth at the end of the day. But yeah, it's been a journey, mate, that...
Where does fishing fit in all that, mate? Because obviously you're told you can't walk, you're being strong, you're battling through what you've got to get through, and your mental outlook and positivity, even though you gloss over it, has got you through that process. You've accepted the fact that you're not going to walk again. At what point did you go, well, I'm going to at least be able to go and enjoy something I did before, which is fishing? When did that come in?
Again, I go back to what I said earlier about Liberty. Lieb come down and see me in hospital pretty quick, probably a couple of days after me. Certainly it was after me operation, actually. So probably about 4 or 5 days after another operation, I was back in recovery. And, right, come on, mate, we're going to do this. We'll get you to Parko, we'll do this, we'll do that. And, Parko, I did go with AD Bransky in the end. I actually did go with AD. Original friend pulled out because of COVID issues. We were going to drive across. And in the end, me and AD decided, look, we'll fly across. Again, that was a massive thing because of I'd never been on a plane before in a wheelchair, and there was a massive learning curve, which again was I think it's like everything. Once you've done it, like once I've been on a plane now, I know it's easy. I can go away with my wife now and think, actually, I can do this on my own. It's not. I don't need. It's not. I think
you've got to put yourself in that position.
You've got to do it. Yeah, you have. It's like you driving from your house to here. If you also got to do it on a push bike, it's a completely different experience to you in a car, if that makes sense. But yeah, I think League was a massive impact in terms of, we'll get you back out fishing, blah, blah, blah. Quite a lot of the fishing lads came to see me in the hospital, we'll get you back out. And they did, I think the first time I went fishing was a lad called Jordan, a lad from Doncaster. Fantastic young lad. He's a real, I've been on a few trips with him over the years, Morocco, etc. And he drove down and he turned up outside my house in his transit van. And I'm sitting there in my wheelchair looking up at the seat at the height is about a metre above me, thinking, not quite sure how I'm going to go fishing this, mate. And so in the end, I think the wife dropped me off and he took all the kids. But yeah, it was good enough that he come down from Doncaster. A young lad, it was a big thing for him to really put up with someone like me in a wheelchair because he didn't know how I was going to react. So I had no ideas myself how I was going to react on the bank. Like say if the slightest things like pivots in the mud or holes in the mud, I'm going straight. I'm on the floor. Once that wheel goes in, that wheelchair's tipping. I had a fish at Ringstead last year. It was about 5 o'clock in the morning. I'd caught this fish on a zig. Brendan had netted it for me. Brendan's standing there now with a net and said, right, can you go get your sling for me, mate? So I rolled up to the slight hill, should I say, up to the top where my cradle was, and my sling was in my cradle. So I got my sling, put it on my lap, and instead of turning around and going down forwards, I decided to go backwards. Well, when you go down backwards in a wheelchair and all of a sudden stop, you just flips. Yeah. So next thing I know, at 5 o'clock in the morning, I'm sort of sitting there on the floor. So I talk about a wake up call. It definitely woke me up. But it's like everything. You've got to get on with it. And I scrambled back up to the cradle, and Brendan brought my wheelchair up, and I got back in the wheelchair and I got on with it again. You know what I mean? But it's but yeah, I think with fishing, mate, it was always. I wouldn't say it was scary because in hospital, a lot of people were bringing magazines in, and people were sending me books in, like Carp books to read. And I didn't do any of it, Obviously, I stayed on Facebook and speaking to people. It was hard, obviously March, because obviously the time I go for hospital, it was spring, so everyone was catching, the fish were coming out and stuff like that. But yeah, no. I mean, fishing never really went away from that. I was going to go. I always knew I was going to go. I know it sounds stupid, but
I remember coming in talking about just general stuff, whatever it was, chatting and then talking I think we referenced fishing and started talking about fishing, and I remember just casting my eyes up at your missus.
No.
She is gonna kill me.
Yes, mate. No,
because you were like, yeah, mate. Yeah, I'll be all right. I'll go again. Yeah. And I was like, yeah, too right you were. And then I thought, oh no.
No, she wants what's. I mean, like you say, when I was down a few weeks ago with a stroke, let me take you fishing. I'll drop you off. Any friends want to go? I'll drop you off. And she meant it. Even on a Saturday, why don't you go down Ringstead and sit with your mates for the day? And you're feeling down. And I wasn't up for going down and sitting in a cold lake as well. It's the last thing we'll do. Because what you got to remember as well is, it's like when you do a winter session or a late autumn session when it's cold. You get yourself sorted out, you're setting up, you're warm, you're not cold, but the minute you've got them rods out and you sit back on your bed chair and your bivvy, that cold hits. Now, you think about me sitting in a wheelchair, I don't move. Where you are walking around constantly generating heat, I'm generating nothing. This is the problem I've got, I can't go fishing, like say, in really late autumn right through to early spring, purely because I can't feel any temperature in my legs. So I could be sat there, like, say, Christmas Day, in a pair of Speedo shorts, thinking it's fantastic. I'm in Australia when I'm actually in Leicester, and I'm actually, realistically, I'm freezing bloody cold, and I'm getting hypothermia. So it's about being sensible. I've got to be sensible now that I can go fishing for, say, 6 months of the year, but 6 months I can't go fishing, and that's the hardest part, because don't get me wrong, it's my busiest time at work, so that's what kills 3 months of it. But it's what I was saying earlier. I finished my work in January, February, March, and April. I don't work. And that's when I'm like, I want to go fishing.
And you've always been on a winter campaign.
Always been on a winter campaign, for as long as I can remember now. And
is there a typical day for you now? Is there like a sort of a physio routine or a daily routine? Let's say you're not fishing within your life. You've obviously got work. Yeah. But is there stuff that you have to do with regards to your injury that sort of, I don't know, maintains... Yeah. There should be, but I don't. Don't drop that on air.
No. I mean, you're supposed to be moving. I mean, obviously, my legs, like I said, I can't move any of my legs at all. Nothing at all. Anything from my belly button down is basically paralysed. So we used to sit at home and we used to move the heels around and make movements in them to keep the bone muscles moving and stuff like that. I mean, that's slowly disappeared now. Like I say, a lot of these people I know, they don't work. A lot of disabled people don't work purely because it's hassle. And they're at the gym every day and they keep them fit, and fair play to them. That's their choice and it's their day and that's how they like it. I tend to, unfortunately, rock up on a Wednesday afternoon at 2:15 for an hour of PT, personal trainer. Then have an hour of physio afterwards and go home. So I'm in the foundation really for 2 hours and that's it. Where a lot of them are there every day, 5 days a week, and it's their life. It's their, they're keeping fit with the gym all the while and stuff like that. So
is that recommended for any reason, or is that just because lifestyle wise they want to keep active in terms of the nature of the industry, the injury? Sorry,
I think it's more really, it gives them a life. It gives them something to do.
Okay.
It might be funny, but I struggle some days where you wake up and you're like, what am I going to do today? I can't go out, it's too cold. And you just end up sitting and watching TV otherwise. I mean, like them 3 weeks when after I broke my leg and had a stroke, I was laying in bed 3 weeks, and that's what was getting me down because I couldn't do anything. I couldn't, it's not as like I could go in the garden and do any gardening. I couldn't go in the garage and just potter around the garage. All of a sudden, so for these people, it's a way of them getting out, meeting other people, similar to ourselves. It's a life for them, really. You know what I mean? Their social life, if that makes sense to a point. Yeah. So, fair play, that's their choice. And, it's not something I've always hated the gym anyway. I won't lie to you. Even with Adelaide, I used to hate walking, to be honest with you, when I had a leg. So, now I do anything to really walk the dog or walk up a hill or something like that. But yeah, it's just, like you say, you just got to get on with it. You have to accept it, get on with it. And, thankfully the family's been a massive support over these last couple of years. A lot of friends have been a massive support. And like you say, you just put a brave face on and get out there and carry on as normal, really. But fishing, it was always something I wanted to carry on doing. Like I say, Liberty was a massive, massive asset for that and pushing me and got me to Parco. That was the main thing. We got to Parco and we did, and it was easier, no problems. I had a fantastic week. There was no issues at all. In fact, it was quite funny because AD came over with his girlfriend a couple of weeks prior to his flying out and went for an Indian. And my wife was basically saying how she does my heels, how she moves them to sort of massage them. So, I didn't think anything of it. We got to Parco and the lads got my bivvy set. When we got to Parco on the Sunday, it was absolutely just raining. Shook it down the rain. And it's like, oh my good God. Of course, once I get in a wheelchair, I'm wet. I can't get dry again. That's the problem. So I stayed in the shelter. The lads went and set my bivvy up for me, bless them. And then I got round there. Anyway, a couple of days into this trip, AD comes round and sees me and he was like, right, do you want me to do your feet for you, mate? I says, you what, mate? He says, "Well, do you want to massage your feet?" I said, "No, bloody don't, mate. Don't bloody Steve. I wouldn't expect that of anybody." You know what I mean? Bless him. And anyway, so he turned around to me at the end of the week and he said, "You know what, Justin? I've done nothing for you." He said, "All I've done is net your fish for you." He said, "You've done everything yourself." And that's the way I want to be. I want to be independent. I want to be able to say, "Look, I don't want to bother you." I mean, don't get me wrong. I do feel bad having to ask people, especially say, people aren't catching, and yet they're getting up at 2 in the morning to come net fish with me. That must be bloody hard for some people. So yeah, it's I try and do as much as I can, be as independent as I can. But then sometimes you realise you can't do everything. You know what I mean? You do need to ask for help. And I think that's my biggest problem, Hass, is that I've always been so independent. I've never asked for help. I've always done it myself, if that makes sense. And I think really now, I still don't ask for help now. I still don't ask, like Brendan, I won't ask Brendan to go fishing. I wait for him to ask me. And I'm probably losing out on weeks and weeks of fishing because I'm not asking anybody. Does that make sense? You know what I mean? So it's my own fault, but I suppose it's my pride and it's the way I've always been. But it's just being independent. It's just hard sometimes that you can't, change your ways. That makes sense on that side.
Talk to me about the captures you've had since, obviously, getting back out, but obviously being in the wheelchair. What do they mean to you, mate?
Well, it was, to get back out again. I mean, the first, like I said, the first time I went fishing everything was completely wrong. Bed chair was on breeze blocks, etc. I remember having a fish in the early hours. Now I was laying on the bed chair at this point with a blanket over me. It wasn't inside my sleeping bag, and I was bloody freezing. And I remember sitting there 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, shivering, and this bloody fish come along. And like I say, you can't just jump out of bed now and run to your rods. It's a case of, my bones seize up, obviously, because they don't get used. So you have to sort of wait for them to sort of, pull them back to kick them in. Then get into your wheelchair, then get down to your rod. So there was always that slight more delay now, if that makes sense. But, that was the first fish caught. It was a common. It was, I might be lying to you actually there. No, if I think I'm lying to you, I apologise. I went with Brendan and Vince first, and we had a couple of fish, and that was a great day. It was just nice to be out with your mates, and these were two of my closest mates. We had a couple of fish, bending my rod, and it just felt great, just being back out. You never
doubted for a second that you'd be back doing it, did you?
No, I knew I'd get out at some point, but again, it was always that scare factor. When was it ready? Am I ready? Can I do it? Can't I do it? And I think, like I said to you earlier, you have to go and get on with it. If you don't, then you basically won't ever do it. And, coming to church, even coming here, me to drive 150 miles away from my house to here, I'm very anxious because my van's been playing up recently. So I'm sitting there going, my good God, if it breaks down halfway down, I've got all that. So then I'm trying to get back home and, the van's sorted out, blah, blah, blah.
So some idiots locked you at bite time in a studio.
Yes, yeah. So bite time is now, and I'm in here. But no, it's you've got to get out and do stuff, mate. You've got to get out and do stuff. Otherwise, and make that effort to do it. Otherwise, you could just sit. I mean, I could quite happily just sit on the bed watching TV every day. You know what I mean? And effectively, you're not living a life here. So you want to be doing it for your wife, your kids. Your kids are grown up now. So like I said to you, one's 18 now. She's sort of pretty much left home. She's now dating boys and everything, so I don't really see her. The 13-year-old's getting to the point where she just getting that grunting age. You don't really speak to her, and she does everything you do is grunts. So yeah, it's before you know it's going to be me and the wife. You know what I mean? And that's what it's going to be. But yeah, fishing will always be a big part of my life. It's something I've always enjoyed, like I say 30 or 35 years, whatever of it now. And I would dearly miss it if I couldn't go, you know what I mean? But
do you think, even though it's different and there's limitations, and we've talked about the limitations before, does it mean more now?
Yeah. Like I said to you, it's hard because I can't just go when I want to go.
Okay.
So that's the hardest part. So when you do go, then you're very reliant on people helping you as well sometimes. Like say, if I go night fishing, someone's got to put my bed chair and bivvy up for me.
Yeah.
I can't carry a Ridge Monkey 2-man bivvy in a wheelchair. I'm going straight backwards and on the floor. I can't carry a bed chair. So, again, you're reliant on that. But yeah, I mean, as far as I know, I'll always go if the opportunity's there, if that makes sense. But I can see him at some point probably ending more towards float fishing where, unfortunately the Carp. Yeah, I can go myself whenever. I mean, obviously the dream was retiring, was always to be able to go fishing when I want to go fishing. Of course, I can't do that now. So, I mean, I've got a small fishery across the road from where I live. You can drive behind you, swim. So that's probably ideal for me going float fishing. It's full of F1s, little fish. And but like I said to you earlier, would I get the buzz? You know, when you've been catching big fish all your life, it's hard to then go back. You know, hence why I went to Deepens from Ringstead. You know, there was big fish in Deepens. It was the next progressive move for me, if that made sense. Instead of having, you know, I didn't really want to travel down south, down to the likes of Essex or, you know, the Combe Valley, whatever. So yeah, you know, but yeah, it's always in you. And I don't think I'll lose that big fish appetite, if that makes sense. And I mean, you're saying about, you know, what captures I've ever had. You know, I've had a 40 from Ringstead last year, fish called Nemo, which I was, you know, to this day I was over the moon with. You know, I absolutely love the fish. It was a great fish. I've not had it before, so it was a fantastic one to have at £40 too. I went out to France and had 5 or 6 40s out there, up to 45. I went to Parco and had 40s out there. So, you know, if you told me, you know, beginning of last year, Justin, you're going to have 40s from England, France and Italy this year, I wouldn't have believed you, you know. But to do that, you know, I know they're only 40s and from abroad. Don't get me wrong, but it's
40, mate. They're mega.
But for me, it was a big thing. It was a big thing that I could go to these places and still catch fish. You know what I mean? Because like I say, my fishing is limited now. I can't move pegs like I used to be able to because I'm now relying on someone to move for me when people don't want to do that. So, you know, my fishing is a completely different way of fishing to what it used to be, where I could get up and move. Those days are gone. You know,
what about? And this is what I was going to ask. The BDAA, so the British Disabled Angling Association.
Yes, yeah.
I've done a bit of work. They've got a carp section now. Yeah. There's a carp match that they do. That Terry and the boys there do a brilliant job. Mm-hmm. How much in terms of support, etc., do you think there is out there for carpers who might have similar injuries or limitations? Is there a fair bit?
I've not seen any, really.
Right.
I mean, Darren Greenfield does the UK Disabled Anglers.
Yeah.
You know, I follow them. Darren's a great guy. I don't really know much about the one you mentioned, to be fair. So really shows you how much exposure they haven't got, if that makes sense. You know, obviously COVID's put. I probably would have been paid. I probably would have been fishing with Darren and, you know, the rest of the lads by now. But with COVID, obviously that wiped last year out. So may get out this year with them. I don't know. But, you know, it's like everything. You still need that helper, and that's what it's about. It's having a helper with you to help you out. And you know, I'm fishing for the bite out of cancer. Mike, you know yourself. He was having his charity fishing match, wasn't it? The Cotswold Park, is it?
Yeah.
And that's been put back to September now. But again, you know, my mate will come with me for that. You know, Mike's been in touch. I've had a drive around. It just says a couple of pegs that look good for disabled access. So, you know, bless him, he sorted it out. Mike's been fantastic, and you know, I'll get involved in anything I can, and I'll help anybody I can. You know, I've got no issues at all. You know, any angler out there who's suffered an injury like this, and trust me, you'd be surprised how many there is. You know what I mean? I mean, there's a guy at the Matt Hampson Foundation. He's a carp angler. Richard, he's a lovely guy. You know, I was speaking to him the other week, and he was saying the same, that his friends have all gone now, and he unfortunately just fishes with his wife, and that's all he fishes with. You know, unfortunately, my wife hates it, so I ain't got much chance of, you know, if that happens to me. But no, you know, there's not a lot out there that I've seen. You know, Darren's obviously kept in touch, you know, every now and then. I mean, he fishes at Naseby, anyway, up the road from me anyway, to fair Naseby Red.
He'll move some gear for you. He's an absolute beast,
he's a machine, mate. He's a machine, the bloke is, mate. You know what I mean? But, yeah. You maybe no problems at all, buddy. But no, I've not really got involved. I mean, like I said to you, you know, I know it sounds awful. I've tried to live a normal life as I possibly can.
Yeah.
So, like I said to you about my Hampson Foundation, I just go for 2 hours. I'm in and out.
Yeah.
You know, I don't really sort of, you know, get involved that much, if that makes sense. Not from my own doing. It's purely because I'm at work still. I'm busy. You know, I'm trying to fish if I can do. I've got family stuff to do. So, you know, my life is very much, yes, I'm in a wheelchair. Yes, life goes on. But yes, I can still go to work 9 till 5 days a week. Yes, I can still go fish on a Saturday if I want, or a Saturday night if you know, someone's there to take me. You know, yes, I've still got on holiday. Yes, I can still do this. And within reason, you know, I've just wanted to sort of get on with it. Does that make sense?
100% completely. What would your advice be if somebody who is a carp angler, they might not even be a carp angler, they might want to get involved in carp fishing, but had a similar injury to yourself? How or what advice would you give that person?
Well, like I said to you, a lot of it's the support of the friends. You know, it's all right saying someone go carp fishing, but they've got no friends in carp fishing, they can't go. No. Simple as that. And that's the thing. It's all about having friends. And, you know, to a point, like I said to you earlier, it does frustrate me sometimes. A lot of people say to me, "Oh, we'll have to go fishing soon, Justin. Let's go fishing soon, Justin." And they'll say it to you 3 or 4 times, and you get to the point where it's like, just stop saying it, mate, because you don't mean it. Yeah, I know you mean well, and you're saying it, and it might make you feel good, but for me, it actually makes me feel like a load of crap. because I know it's never going to happen. And the first time you say it, you get your hopes up. Oh, great, we'll go fishing soon. And then the next time he says it, and it gets more and more. Then it never happens.
It's just lip service.
Yeah, it's just and they mean well. I'm not saying they don't mean well, but at the same time, I'd rather people like that just keep their mouth shut and. I'm never going to fish with you, so just don't bother asking me. You know what I mean, or say anything unless you really mean it. And you ring me up and say, right, you want to fish next week, Justin? You know what I mean? But yeah, I mean, you get to the point where you fish with certain people because, like, say Zach, Brendan, they know exactly what I need and what I'm after, if that makes sense.
So support and community around you is like big.
Yeah, support. I mean, that's why I suppose with the British angling, disabled angling, and the UK disabled angling groups. Darren, I think that they do sort out helpers. So you have got someone there helping you, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, once I'm set up, I'm fishing. I do everything myself, you know what I mean? It's like now, I got set up on Monday and I've been fishing on my own since then.
To be fair, like you say, your angling has been affected, but you've got a history of actually fishing.
Yes.
If you wanted to spread your wings and get out there, as you say, that the help around you and support around you is paramount. So those groups, the fact that they're on social, the fact that all right, it's not massive exposure, but there is some. Yes. They're integral, aren't they?
Yeah, I'd say I can't express enough to you how much friendship means. Yeah. And that's true for more for support more than anything. But it's like everything. Don't let it hold you back. You can do it. Yeah. You just got to be careful what venue you go to because obviously, you can end up with some of the swims on Church. There's probably only 2 swims on there that are any good to me. The one, the lodge I'm in now, and the one bang opposite me.
The one with all the fishing.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, the one with all the washing out and stuff. But they're 2 swims. They're the only 2 really that'll be any good. But you seen yourself today when you came up to Church. One of the lads had a fish next to me. I can't go around to him. It's too muddy. The banks aren't, and that's a problem. So I miss that part of it. Yeah. You can't get involved with, helping photos and getting involved, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, I think at the end of the day, anybody who's trying to get into it, at the end of the day, it's just be basically, be prepared. You're limited to when you can fish, when your friends can let you fish, or when they'll take you, or when they've got time to help you, if that makes sense. But don't hold you back. I'm still catching fish in the 40s.
Yeah.
So why can't you? You know what I mean? At the end of the day, it's the opportunity's there. I'd love to catch a UK 50. That'd be my dream if that makes sense in a wheelchair. And
it'll happen, mate. I look forward to it.
Yeah, no, it will. I'll tag you in the day it does, Hasper. But no, it's anything's possible. That's all I'm saying. Anyone who's new is coming to the sport, don't think that's it. Life's over. It's not over. There's a big life out there still to live. I've had my ups and downs. Like I said, the stroke really hit me for 6 a few weeks back. Probably lowest point I've been. That was the truth. I just couldn't work out why things just keep happening one thing after another for me. But you pick yourself back up again. I've dusted myself off. I'm back here. I've had a lovely fish. The big fully has made my week even before it started. If that made sense. A couple of hours of casting out. But yeah, it's just anything is possible if you put your mind to it, and that's the truth. That's not just fishing. That's anything in life.
I love that, mate. It's very you as well. You talked there about a 50-pounder and that for you the future. Mm-hmm. When I say the future to you, what do you immediately think of?
The future fishing wise, I mean, like I say, I'm probably going to give Ringstead up this year because I just don't get on there enough to justify the ticket, the price of the ticket. Wellingborough Lakes, I'll fish a lot more now. Zach I fish with, he doesn't drive, so I pick him up. Big help for him. He helps me, I drive for him. So together we're a great team. We've fished, we've known each other for years. We've fished together for years. And bless him, we'll get to the bank, he'll put my kit out first, he gets me set up first before he even looks after himself. I can't ask for more. He's a fantastic lad. A lot of respect for the guy, a lot of respect for the guy. But yeah, like you say, what the future holds, that's what you're asking, I suppose, isn't it, really, what the future holds?
I'm just interested in what you think in terms of the future and what you want to achieve, what you want to do, and how you see that.
Just get out fishing, really, mate. Like I said to you, smaller fish don't tend to float my boat as much, but it's still a bend in the rod. It still gives you that fix. Don't get me wrong. I think the thing with me is I'll always do trips. So where like Tom, I'm with Tom Doherty now. He doesn't fish as much as he used to. He's had a young child. Tom's a great guy. I've known Tom for years now as well. We'll probably just do a few trips a year. Like we'll come here probably next year, get his booked again. We'll probably go to the Stitch holiday, peg, and just do trips like that. A couple of trips abroad or something. So probably Tom I'll probably see 3 or 4 times a year on different trips. Brendan hope to see a couple of times. Zach I'll probably try and get out a bit more. So again, it's all probably trying to sort trips out, and then once they're booked, and then you go in. You know what I mean? Now, obviously, weather's always a big thing for me. I mean, I could have come here, say Monday, I turn up here, it was chucking down the rain. And you sit there going, oh my good God, everything's gonna be wet through, damp, cold, and like I say, I don't move like I used to. I can't move around in a wheelchair like I used to. So you do get a lot colder quicker, if that makes sense. But like you say, you can't do anything about weather. It's no different to booking a week in France. You book a week in France, looking forward to a great week. The weather's crap, you don't catch. You go to France and you book a week and the weather's spot on, you're going to have a good hit. So
I love it, mate. I love the fact that, yes, it's changed, the goalpost has shifted, but you can still see that hunger and that
the hunger's
sort of
there.
desires there, mate, isn't it?
The hunger's there, buddy, and that will never go away. It's part of me since I was a kid, you know what I mean? The fishing and my dad taking me and stuff. And you say my mum's not very well at the moment. She's in hospital. My mum is at the moment. And whether my dad's in retirement now, whether he'll ever get a rod again and go fishing, I don't know. You know what I mean? It'd be nice if he did one day, just to sort of get out together for old time's sake. But yeah, no, the hunger is there, mate. It'll always be there. I think that fire will always be burning. But I do know deep down one day that fire will have to go out, and I've got to be realistic and say, look, I'm getting older now and things. At the moment I'm still young, I'm still fit, I can do stuff. But I think the older you get in a wheelchair and you're not, bear in mind I'm not running around like you guys, I'm not fit and, and I haven't got the energy more than anything. It's the energy that does you because you're not running around and building that energy up. I've had a couple of nights, bad night's sleep here where 5 o'clock in the morning, first light, the geese have been at it, screaming their heads off and, that's me awake at 5 o'clock. So I've had sort of 5 hours sleep and I'm sitting there shattered. But what you don't realise is I'm not then got the energy to then use my wheelchair to get around, if that makes sense. Yeah. So but yeah, I'll always try and get out there. I'll always try and help people out if I can do. And I think people have pointed people in my direction who have gone through similar injury, if that makes sense. And I'll always be one of the first ones to help them out. You know what I mean? That's really that's what I'm all about, really, if that makes sense. You know what I mean,
mate? Yeah, I mean, I don't know what to say. I've got nothing but love and respect for you. Before, always, mate, you're a good mate. But as much as you hate the word,
yeah,
you're an inspiration to me, mate. I do hark back to you. You really does put things in perspective.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
For that. And I'm not saying that in a condescending, horrible way. I just think it's inspiring that, like, I might be there going, and you're thinking, people are bloody a lot worse off than you, mate. Shut up.
I think the interesting thing was, I read something on Instagram the other day, and it's actually so true that with a disability, I was like you, I was healthy, I hadn't been in hospital, I think last time I was in hospital I was 12, so I don't do doctors or hospitals and stuff. And the thing with disability is, it can come at any time, completely out of the blue, there's no warning, no one gives you any preparation, and, it's quick and it can affect anybody at any time. And that's true. And you look at that and think, that is so bloody true at the end of the day. Like me falling out of a tree, I never dreamt it was going to happen. No. You know what I mean? Or I'd ever be in a wheelchair. I've lived all my life, 46 years with legs and been happy, no problems. And, you never dream in your life that that's the next 40 years of your life going to be like this. You know what I mean? So it's, but yeah, it is. It's yeah, mate. You just got to be positive, buddy, as best you can. You can't do anything but be positive. That's the thing. The minute you go start turning negative, like I said a few weeks ago, you're just going to go into depression. Yeah. And that's the truth. And say fishing, like I said, you're going back to fishing. It gets me excited. It gets me, something to look forward to. Where I used to look forward to going at the end of the weekend, at the end of a busy week at work. Now it might be over 2 weeks. I'm going. I look forward to that. I've got something to look forward to and aim for. You know what I mean? Fishing is a big thing because it still gives me. It's my biggest hobby I do and what I love. You know what I mean? In the day,
I think testament to you, mate. The mark of a man is not necessarily when things are up here.
No.
The dream. It's how you are and how you conduct yourself and things when things aren't so great, mate. And you, impeccable is no other word for it. You're an absolute legend, mate. Yeah, love you, mate.
Thank you so much, Chas.
Last part of the interview, no sort of grilling, but a quick 10 questions, mate. Okay. The Nash finish off questions. Pretty much, I haven't memorised them. I'm going to read them off a piece of paper. Okay, but you've got to answer them quickly, mate.
Far away.
Are you drinking
cold
tea?
I always drink cold tea. I'm an accountant, mate. I sit on my desk all day. So,
right, ready?
Far away.
UK 50 or foreign 70?
UK 50.
Bait boat or baiting pole?
After seeing the bait pole this week and the wind, like a massive snake, I've got bait boat.
Would you rather experience carp fishing 20 years ago or 20 years in the future?
20 years ago. I mean, when I first started that carp fishing, I was like the only carp angler on 30 years ago, I'd been carp fishing 35 years ago, and you sit there on the lake, there'd be 27 match anglers around you, and you're the only person chucking a ball out, and everyone would be looking at you gone out. But definitely 20 years ago.
Dawn or dusk?
Dawn.
Professional angler or professional footballer? Which one would you choose?
Angler.
Would you?
Yeah, definitely, mate.
Got enough money as accountant, mate.
No, sure. Don't give that one away, mate. Don't give that one away.
Yeah, tax man. Always torrentially raining when you're fishing or always 30 degrees boiling hot?
Torrential rain, mate. Much as I say it in wheelchair, unfortunately, I don't like the heat. So definitely.
Would you rather catch 10, 20 pounders in a session or 140?
140.
Yeah, I knew that. The rest of your life, you can only listen to drum and bass or country and western.
Well, after watching Alan Blair doing drum and bass in my swim on the night before I arrived, did you see it? Did you see on his story? I was sitting there going, "Oh my good God, I'm having a rave party in my swim." Country western, unfortunately.
You wait till tonight, mate. Country and western meets drum and bass in that swim. Would you rather fish a 2-week session without changing your socks or a 2-week session without changing your underwear?
I don't wear underwear these days because it's damn sight easier. I have to, mate, in a wheelchair. It's like too much hassle having bloody pants on, mate. So socks, mate. It has to be socks, unfortunately.
Socks.
Yeah.
Hook bait, colour choice, bright or match the hatch?
Bright.
Olive or camo?
Olive.
Olive. He's very olive there.
Olive.
Last question. Date night with the missus or hit the lake on the end of a big pressure drop and a fresh southwesterly?
Well, if we're only natural, mate. We're going to say pressure drop, aren't we? As much as the wife ain't going to listen to this, so I can definitely say pressure drop.
Well, you're free, scot-free. Justin, mate, thank you so much. You are, as I said, mate, an absolute legend for coming on. Thank you guys for watching, listening. I know that's inspired a few people. If you're in that situation, please reach out. Justin's there, as he says. There are other organisations who can help. But I think I go for all when I say it definitely does put things into context and shows you how immense carp fishing in the community can be. Big love. Everybody take care. We'll hopefully see you again soon with another Nash Off the Hook podcast.